So we're gonna kind of like recap it, and I'm gonna try to make it explanatory for some of y'all that might not know why this is significant today. There's been multiple theories. There's been multiple, finger pointing about what really happened in the death of Tupac, but it seems now it's becoming more crystal clear in the sense of some of the bullshit theories could kind of go away. There's still a few questions. Definitely still a few questions. But I think it centralizes it to maybe one or a few things that we could now pinpoint as the reason why Tupac lost his life. All right. Welcome to everybody who's tuning in on YouTube. Welcome to everybody who's tuning in on Rumble, of course, and of course, Twitch and even Facebook. Okay. What I got going on? Let me just make sure I check on y'all. Y'all good? Make sure y'all good. Somebody said the nigga got locked up. He like 70 now. Yeah. That's a fact. Give me a second. I'm going to just pull up the comment section on all respective platforms. I can see what y'all saying. You feel me? Okay, cool. Okay, good. There we go. All right. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So when I say how many screens I got, a bunch. I'm just trying to get Twitch up. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to try to simplify. I know I do have some young audience members who you might have loved Pac, but maybe weren't invested that much into all the theories and the research relating to Pac's murder. But today it was announced, and again, I'm going to give you a summary before I get into all the details. It was announced that Dwayne, what's his last name? Davis or something like that? He's known on the streets as Keefe. He was arrested for murder and a few other charges in relation to Tupac's death and Tupac's murder. I'm going to tell you what it seems now, and by the way, the police has explained what they believe also happened. So this really gets deep, and this is why, again, I think technology is the only reason why that murder wasn't solved, and it wasn't really done, like the investigation wasn't done to the best of its ability. Obviously, they were limited by the availability of technology then. Nowadays, niggas would have solved that murder in 20 seconds. Like, come on. You get what I mean? And this is allegedly how the theory goes, okay? And by the way, I kind of believe this theory might is actually true. So allegedly, they're saying there was a hit put out on Tupac, $1 million allegedly, by some person. We'll just say some person for now. Someone allegedly had a hit out on him. And while Mike Tyson had a fight in Vegas, by the way, people were aware of the hit. I heard it was communicated to certain people. But Mike Tyson had a fight in Vegas. Pac goes out there, and essentially, after the fight, while having fun, first of all, he gets into a fist fight with a gang member who had snatched his homeboy's chain at a previous event. So he and the rest of the guys, because you imagine, you ever walked out of like an action movie and you feeling hyped up, like you feel like you're one of the Avengers? Anyway, he just saw Mike Tyson like knock a nigga clean out or something of the sort. So, he's hyped up, right? He sees a nigga who's an op who probably did something to somebody in his crew or whatever, took a chain, and rushes the dude. They all jump him. Tupac's getting his shit in. But apparently the dude he jumped is a Crip. And, while Pac seemed like, he was very close in proximity to all these gangs that he was around in California. He was really a New York guy that went out to Cali. He wasn't really gangbanging. And apparently that was one of those things that probably signed his death certificate. You know what I mean? Like, again, for a certified gang member who was known as a shooter to get beat up or jumped or violated by a rapper, Tupac, was crazy. So, of course, the person took it into their own hands. Now, this is where, I think there's some theories that's floating around. There's theories floating around how much... Well, first of all, was there really a hit? Did he get killed because of the hit? and the jumping, or just the jump. There's a lot of things going on. And I'm going to explain some of the theories that people are still floating around, because this arrest, even though 27 years later, people still believe there's more parts they could connect. So anyway, Orlando Anderson is the Crip. Him and his uncle, which is the Keefe dude, and two other dudes, they basically go load up in some Cadillac with a gun. And according to Keefe own words, and by the way, you know how if you've ever been on my King Akademiks channel on YouTube, you know that whole little compilation of me watching A.R. Ab, and he's like, yo, Skinny Me? He's like, I love Skinny Me music. Because when he say he did it, I seen him do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like one of those things, and you're like, damn, this is the biggest self-snitching ever. Well, this blows this out of the water. Keefe D was taking payment from anybody who would interview him or put a mic in front of his face, and he was willingly telling on himself. He probably thought it was good or it was okay to do. And this is where it also gets, the story gets very deep, right? It gets super deep. I'm trying to explain this, but I'm gonna have videos to support everything I'm saying. What ended up happening is that supposedly Baby Lane, which is Orlando Anderson, he gets killed. So the guy who killed Tupac gets killed. Allegedly, he gets killed in another incident where he pulled up on somebody, kind of the same situation as the Pac thing, but he pulled up on another nigga for him either robbing one of his men, something like that. And supposedly him and the other dude shoot each other and kill each other, right? So he dies, the other two people die, and there's only one person alive, right? Regardless, the reason why it's interesting and the reason why it kind of leads to so many theories is that, and the reason why this guy was running his mouth was because, Keefe D, and again, I'm going to have videos to support everything I'm saying. I'm just trying to give you a summary. Keefe D caught a charge. He got caught up on some charges in LA. Okay. And when he got caught up on some charges, basically, to try to lessen those charges, he took a proffer session and also allegedly was possibly down to cooperate with the government. There's a lot of theories that goes with this. Again, I'm going to play a lot of shit that hopefully I will sequentially make this make sense. But apparently he was down to wear a wire and like, okay, let me just get into it actually. Let's get into it. So basically, I guess in the summary form, Keefe D took a proffer. Now, you know I'm like a ghetto lawyer, right? So there's a bunch of different things that exist in the legal system that could protect you later on if you do get hemmed up, right? And by the way, there's a lot of ways that people usually use the law to get out of other situations they have. Apparently, Keefe D caused some charges in LA. He basically does a proffer to help the police solve other crimes. So a proffer usually it's a session where you and the police, or the police and the DA, or the investigators and the DA, y'all sit down, and usually you're giving up information to a specific crime that usually you aren't the target for, right? If you're doing a proffer, usually you're not the main person they want in that particular crime, but you may know certain shit that could help and aid the investigation. Now, that proffer session, they usually call it Queen for a Day, because usually whatever you say in that proffer session will not be used. Even if you say, I did get that gun up, they won't use any of your statements against you. Okay? By the way, this is a written, signed document. You probably won't find a proffer in open court or even public available documents. So if you think like a civilian, you could see records, but that's usually not filed. It's usually sealed or some shit. Anyway, here's the point. Remember, he's the last dude that was in the car. He basically gets hemmed up on other charges. They say, hey, listen, man, we kind of know that, you were in this car, blah, blah, for the Tupac thing. We're not really looking at that. We want to get these other guys, blah, blah, blah. He basically admits to the whole, like, his part in the Tupac murder. And I think he thought that meant immunity. Now, the difference between a proffer and immunity is that if you sign an immunity deal like people thought that Kelsey signed in the Tory Lanez case, an immunity deal means that you could never be charged on those charges for that said crime. Okay? Ever again. Even if there's more evidence that comes out, they can't hit you with that charge. They rarely give that out, but sometimes they'll give it out to usually cooperants that's really extending themselves. But regardless, this guy didn't get an immunity deal, right? He got a proffer agreement, which means for one day, for that one session, and actually it could last more than one day. For that one session, whatever he told the police, which was going to help them solve some other crimes, could not be used to prosecute him, right? Okay, so that's where there's an audio tape, and you're going to hear it later. There's an audio tape of this guy actually admitting to what went on. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I was in the car. Like, he pretty much admits to an officer his role in the murder of Tupac. Now, here is why, and this is how it gets interesting. And by the way, there's a huge conspiracy with this. Okay. The U.S. attorney comes in, so like the FBI comes in. So, that was an L.A. case that would be held and been investigated by LAPD, but then the feds come in. Tupac's a big superstar, right? They're trying to figure out where the webs might connect. By the way, also, you got to remember East Coast, West Coast, BF, all that type of stuff. They get to talk to this guy who leads them down a rabbit hole, and they actually lead him to basically give up the people who are associated, who may have taken steps to have Pac killed and do some other crimes. So, for example, the person who gave him the gun, okay? So you're going to hear certain names come up, and I don't know if they're going to properly identify these people. I'm hoping to give you the identity of them now, that this is going to make sense. Because if, obviously, I know a lot of y'all watch this whole shit, so like you probably already know all the characters. Some of y'all might not, okay? So, as the story goes, apparently he got a gun from a guy named Von Zip, okay, or something like that, right? That guy allegedly was the person who was almost like a middleman, right, of sorts, between these guys and other people who wanted Pac dead, okay? That's where the bounty comes in. And I think when the feds came in, they were probably looking at a lot of conspiracy charges they could have got. Again, the unfortunate part about it is that everybody's dead. So, like, everybody's dead. I mean, the only person alive is this guy, and for right now, I'll say a name not to be mentioned, that's right now disconnected from this whole situation. Okay? So, let me try to break this down. I'm going to have to do it with interviews and all of this shit. Okay, I know I'm confusing something. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Again, I'm trying to make this very simple for y'all, right? Once again, Tupac is raising hell. He's beefing with niggas. He's violating people. It's an East Coast, West Coast thing that's brewing. Okay? He's constantly dissing the East Coast. Allegedly, maybe, I don't know, somebody on the East Coast puts a bounty on his head. Maybe $1 million. That number is floating. That number gets communicated to certain people. That number eventually does get to someone like Keefe D through a middleman. Possibly that Von Zip dude. Okay? Now, ironically, and this is like the big irony. It's either irony or it's a whole conspiracy and plot. Tupac goes to Vegas, beats up the son, or not the son, beats up the cousin of the guy who knows that there's a hit out on Tupac. You get what I mean? So it's like you already have an incentive to try to do something to him because you're hearing about this $1 million hit. But then when your nephew comes to you and says, yo, I just got beat up by Tupac, oh, let's go get that nigga. You get what I mean? So that's the working theory I believe the police are kind of going with. Regardless, I'm going to try to highlight a picture to make you understand. I think the cops here are after a bigger fish, but I don't know if they'll catch him. Okay? The cops, I believe, this arrest is a domino to get after a bigger fish. Okay? This guy's the last living person that could connect someone to even any type of hit, bounty, conspiracy, any of that. And I think he gets locked up. They're hoping that he'll possibly flip for lesser charges or something of the sort. Okay? Now, granted, he might not have even any information to really help them with, and maybe he's just gonna, fuck it, we're just gonna close the case because he's the last person alive, right? But there's a lot of theories of why this happened. Now, keep in mind, the Keefe D dude, remember I told you he got caught up in charges in LA? He did a proffer session, and everything he said in the proffer session, he wrote it in a book, and then he went on interviews to say. The proffer session only says that particular interview can't be used. Anything subsequent could always be used. He's been snitching on himself literally for 5 years straight. There's more videotapes on this nigga. I mean, like, I don't even know what. So they could have picked this guy up at any time. They just chose to pick him up now. And, yeah. Okay. I think that's about it. All right, okay, so let me get into some of the things to try to make you guys understand. First and foremost, by the way, we're going to use a lot of Vlad TV videos. And Vlad, I love you and thank you for your diligent services in fucking help cracking and solving this case, whether you knew it or not. I think you did know it. But here's the thing, and by the way, let me Google this shit. So, here we go. So now you kind of understand a little bit of premise. Let's now play a bit of what the guy from his own words said. And maybe I should show you. Actually, no. I know what I should do. My bad. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm kind of scatterbrained. And by the way, I know sometimes you act like we're dumb. Yeah, well, sometimes I'm remedial myself. I be thinking, like, if I was not me, would I understand what the fuck I'm doing? Okay, let me go to Law and Crimes. So what I'm going to do is, before I get to his interviews, I'm going to go to Law and Crimes. They did a whole press conference today. So where is it at? Videos. Okay, yeah. They did a whole press conference. I'm going to have y'all listen to the press conference. It's going to break down certain details. Then we're going to get to the interviews about specific details. Then we're going to kind of break down the conspiracy, okay? We're going to kind of find out some new characters. We're going to go down some rabbit holes, okay? So, by the way, just buckle in for a little bit, okay? Here we go.
My name is Kevin McMahill. I'm the sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. 27 years. 27 years. For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis, aka Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Davis was arrested this morning by my LVMPD criminal apprehension team, and this investigation started on the night of September 7th, 1996. It is far from over. It has taken countless hours, really decades, of work by the men and women of our homicide section to get to where we are today. Several of those detectives that are standing here with us include Detective Cliff Mogg, the lead detective on this case. He is now retired. Well, I know there's been many people who did not believe that the murder of Tupac Shakur was important to this police department. I'm here to tell you that was simply not the case. It was not the case back then, and it is not the case today. Our goal at LVMPD has always been to hold those accountable and responsible for Tupac's violent murder accountable. Just like we do for every homicide victim in our city. Every single victim, every life that is lost is important and remains a priority.
Let me skip a little bit because I don't want to bore people, but I also want to get to the meat and potatoes.
For the murder of Tupac Shakur.
So they're going to describe all the facts they know or they're down. By the way, the cop, they're still investigating. They're not going to tell you everything, but they're going to tell you enough that they're cool with the public knowing at this point. But it'll establish some facts for y'all. Here we go.
Came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Dwayne Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips. And both of these gangs operated out of the Southern California area of Compton. On the night of September 7th of 1996, Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight, and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena.
Yep.
Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson near an elevator bank inside the MGM, and at that time they began to kick and punch him near that elevator.
By the way, again, y'all tell me how deep y'all want to get into this. By the way, I mean, obviously I would not want Pac to die, but if we was around when the time when Pac got killed, we would have broke this shit down like fucking a pound of weed, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like, even this part, right? Why the fuck did Tupac jump the dude, right? Because Tupac attacked him. The dude allegedly took a chain or robbed a chain from one of Tupac's niggas, and that's a whole story in itself that you could go down like a whole different arc on, but we're gonna stick to Pac.
Elevator bank. I will now show you hotel security footage, as many of you have already seen, related.
Am I panning? I'm panning, right? Okay, my bad. Sorry. Good. I bet. Sorry.
To this incident. And on this incident, you will see Tupac Shakur, who's wearing a shiny satiny shirt, along with Marion Suge Knight, who's a large man in a brown suit, punching and kicking Orlando Anderson. Following this incident, you'll see hotel security intervene, and then they will leave the area of the fight.
Okay. By the way, keep in mind of like just certain details. It's in military time, so this is 8:50. Is this 8:50? Is this time correct? Because I'm thinking it's after the fight. Ain't the fight's late?
Little did anyone know that it is this incident right here that would ultimately lead to the retaliatory shooting and death of Tupac Shakur. Following this incident, Tupac and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party, which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. And then that's when Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson. After Davis obtained a gun, he entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown.
By the way, I know y'all hate when I pause it, but again, these are all different little branches that we have to like possibly investigate. Depending on how bored y'all get, because I could take 5 hours on this shit. There was a whole process, and remember the whole thing I was telling you about the conspiracy and the hit and blah blah. The obtaining of the gun that eventually gets used for the murder connects or leads down a path of maybe there was a bigger plot than just, we're just gonna kill. You know what I mean? Because it brings other people into it. So how we obtain the gun brings other people into it, which connects to a bigger conspiracy. We're gonna get to that, but let me just let him speak.
DeAndre Smith and Orlando Anderson. Based on our investigation, this is where we know they were seated.
Okay, I'm going to pause here again. Let me just make this bigger. Okay. Actually, I got to make this bigger on my screen too. All right, cool. So the driver was Terrence T. Brown. Then you had DeAndre Smith. And then on the right side, you had Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. And you had Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, okay? Allegedly, the trigger man is the one in the right back seat. His uncle, the one who got arrested, is the one in the front seat. And you're going to hear the biggest self-snitching ever in the world, because this guy, who's now in custody, he went on multiple interviews and damn near bragged that he's the one who passed the gun to this guy to do the killing, which is like, nigga, what? Again, he was saying this for years. Nothing happened, so he basically was like thinking it was cool, right? Let's get back to shit. Cool. All right. Sorry, chat. All right. Here we go. All right.
Systematic investigative plan over the last 5 years.
Sorry.
We've conducted countless interviews and corroborated numerous facts that were not only consistent with the crime scene on the night of the incident, but also corroborated and were consistent with the sequence of events that night. This ultimately led to us procuring a search warrant which was executed at Mr. Davis's residence in Henderson, Nevada. And following the execution of that search warrant, in close coordination with the District Attorney's Office, this case was presented to the grand jury, which ultimately led to Davis being indicted on charges of murder. Before I hand it off to the District Attorney's Office, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Detective Mogg and all the other detectives that were not only assigned this case and reviewed this case, but all the other detectives from other agencies that assisted us in this investigation. They know who they are, and thank you very much for all the assistance you provided. It does not go unnoticed. And lastly, one of the most important things, in my opinion, is we need to make this be a reminder that the charge of murder does not have a statute of limitations. This agency has been and is invested in solving our cold case homicides.
Okay, let me skip a little bit.
Davis will appear in court in the next few days or so.
Okay.
Retired detective.
Again, we don't have to get, we don't have to listen to every word. I'm going to summarize a lot for y'all. Okay. So first things first. So the guy's in custody. They kind of gave you some details about what happened on that night, that fateful night in September 1996. Here's also the interesting thing, okay? If you're now, which by the way, apparently this guy used to sell drugs and all that type of shit. This guy's a gang member, right? Obviously that stopped or dried up over time, right? Because he would have been locked up. And by the way, he did get locked up for drugs too. That's one of the reasons he was caught in some bond in LA, right? So recently, his thing has been getting paid for interviews. So everybody wants to hear the same story about Pac. He's been telling the same story about how he was in the car, this and third, and because he never got arrested, and also him falsely thinking the proffer agreement that I talked to y'all about before still remained. And this is the thing about just how dumb niggas is. I ain't gonna hold you. Chat, think about this, okay? Let me just paint a scenario for you. Tupac gets killed in Vegas. This, even though the FBI is taking some interest in it, the majority of the investigation is being handled by Las Vegas PD. You get caught up in some shit in LA, and then you basically give up certain shit about what happened in Las Vegas to get out of the LA situation. This guy moved back to Las Vegas. Why would you move back to the jurisdiction of where you know and you're still bragging about committing or being in the car when a murder was committed? Like, think about this. If you killed Tupac or you were in the car and y'all killed Tupac, why would you even live in the same city that they could run a search warrant on your house 27 years later? Like, come on. Like, it does, bruh, move at least to the next town. Brother, nigga, you should be in Florida somewhere. Like, nigga, how are you still down the street from where the murder happened? Do you know what I mean? How the hell are you still there? So, that's already the stupid thing. The second stupid thing is this. Brother, even if you mistook a proffer agreement, which is Queen for a day, versus unilateral immunity, first and foremost, that happened in LA. So you got that in LA. The murder happened in Las Vegas. LAPD or LA County can't protect you from the crime you did in Vegas. Secondly, even if you thought, even if whatever reason you thought that you had some type of protection, or you thought the proffer deal was gonna stand, you do know other crimes that might be associated with it you could be charged for. And again, I'm just trying to give y'all some definitions that we understand why he's getting locked up. He did a proffer agreement. He told on himself there, but that can't count. Then he told his story on Vlad TV 50 times and a bunch of other places 2 million times. They're finally using that evidence. By the way, he also didn't leave Vegas. If he had left Vegas, the feds would have had to come get him, right? And I think the feds, I'm going to be honest with you, this is why I keep listen, the feds, I believe, everybody know the nigga was there. I don't think the feds care that much about him. I think they've been dangling him out there, hoping that him constantly talking about the issue would attract the interest or attract the self-interest of another person who they care about, maybe the guy who allegedly who had a hit on somebody, hoping that he would either reach out, do something to get this nigga to stop fucking talking. Whether it is, clean up his, loose ends or pay the nigga like, yo, bro, please stop fucking talking, bro. Please stop talking about this shit. Do you get what I mean? So I think the Fed, so if you ask me, and by the way, you're going to see later, the feds want the big fish. The feds don't want this nigga. Local police wants this nigga. You get what I mean? So if he had moved out of Vegas, he probably would have been fine because they're not looking to arrest him as they're looking towards a bigger play. They like doing RICOs, conspiracies, things of that nature, right? Okay, cool. So homie's in custody. By the way, he was indicted. Obviously there was a grand jury proceeding that went on. That shit's secret. So pretty much what happened is that while everybody, I think he should have known as soon as he got a lawyer probably gonna tell him like, yo, bro, they're probably in the grand jury about this shit. Okay, so they were probably grand jury in this case for, I don't know, weeks to months. And the search warrant at that time was pretty much, I think, the last ditch effort of the cops to try to get a murder weapon or even bullets or spent shells or anything that could connect to the murder that could make sure this guy gets indicted, right? I don't know what they found at the house. Apparently, they didn't find no gun. They didn't find no spent shells that really matched that particular gun that was used that fired the fatal bullet. But they still got an indictment. So the indictment's here and the nigga's locked up. Cool. All right. So we covered that. Now let's go to Keefe D. Mr. Tell It All. Okay? Let's hear what he got to say about this whole thing. And this is 5 years ago. Okay?
Let's talk about what happens next. Based on what the book says, Zip.
By the way, give me 1 second. I want to y'all want to know self-snitching 101? I got to show you this. I got to show you this. This is hilarious. I got to find this interview. Is it this interview? I think it's this interview. Yep, it is this interview. Keefe D. I need the full interview. Vlad, I know you got it. Here we go. So I think this is the first interview.
And first day I hit the yard. Basically, it was protection, really.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you, again, I'm trying to be very methodical as I'm doing this. The first thing I'm going to show you is the definition of why niggas need to stop hating on snitches because they snitch on themselves. This guy does a Vlad TV interview. By the way, Vlad had interviewed everybody around the orbit of the murder. You're going to see another name that's going to be very interesting to us. He's a white guy. His name is Greg Kading. We're going to get to him too. However, let me see if we can find it. Here we go. I'm trying to find the part where Vlad explicitly asks him, who shot? You know what I mean?
And when you look side by side. So how would you even see Tupac reach for anything if you're driving behind him?
We weren't driving behind. I tell you, we were side by side at the light.
So what happens next?
And we just came.
Okay. So chat, this is the funny part about it. Give me 1 second, chat. I know, listen. Just have some patience for me tonight. I'm going to make sure y'all get this whole thing good. Okay. So remember, Vlad gets this guy in. This is like years ago. This wasn't 2 years. This is like years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Look how Vlad gets this nigga to start snitching on himself. Look how Vlad does it.
Shit. I ain't gonna go into details like that. You know what I'm saying?
Classic street nigga shit. Hey, I ain't gonna go into details like that because I'm a real street nigga. Here we go.
But, you know, you got it in a book. It was a dude from Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also you had C-Ray with you.
Yeah.
And that was one of your salesmen, basically.
Yeah, one of my captains.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what happens next. You know, based on what the book says, Zip gave you a Glock, gave you guys.
Okay, remember those names. Zip. So I'm giving out some other names. This is Keefe. There's a guy named Zip. Orlando Anderson, a.k.a. Baby Lane, is the dude that gets beat up. That's his nephew. And that's the guy supposedly pulled the trigger. Zip is the guy who gave the gun. Okay? Zip is the middleman to the big fish. We're going to get to it.
Guys a Glock, and you guys tossed it in the back seat. And Bubble Up was the driver, and Baby Lane and Freaky were in the back seat.
We was just all in the car together. Just say that.
So remember, this is the first time Vlad interviewing this nigga. This is how street niggas are. Vlad did his research so good. Vlad is telling him where people is in the car. You know why? Because he already snitched other places, just nobody put it together. So Vlad is saying, that person's in the driver's seat, you're here, there's two niggas in the back. And Vlad is surprising this guy with the story. You know what the guy say? Let's just say we in the car, because he's trying to be street and not give the info up.
This was the white Cadillac.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are driving around, and then you hear these girls say, Tupac, Tupac.
By the way, I seen somebody just mention, somebody said Zip was a gangster dude out of New York. That's where the story gets deep. Why is there a New York nigga connected to this whole thing? And also, keep in mind, there's a whole beef between Coast, allegedly, at that point. Here we go.
No, we coming up, what's the name? What's that, Flamingo? Yeah, I think that's Flamingo. We was coming up Flamingo and got to the light. We was going to go drink and smoke some weed, and he happened to be hanging out the window. He was hanging out the window like he was in a parade.
Tupac.
Yeah, he was.
Yo, Pac was living.
So what
up.
happens next?
And we just came, and shit. I ain't gonna go into details like that.
Why
you
not?
Know what I'm saying?
Why not?
But you know, you got it in a book. You done played it, everything else. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, in the book, you said that as you're driving up towards the BMW, with Suge driving and Tupac in the passenger seat, and you said that Tupac pulled out a gun.
It looked like he was reaching, yeah. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you actually see a gun?
No, shit. Once he got the reaching, I got the ducking.
So someone from your car
That's what happened.
started shooting
Huh.
at Tupac and Suge.
Lane starts blasting.
Okay, so let me pause this right here. So this is which, by the way, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is why this thing is so deep, by the way. This audio you're hearing is the LA proffer session that got recorded. By the way, the audio of a proffer session should never come out, right? This should never be released, but I think people felt like they were at the dead end. I think the detective, who's now retired, by the way, Greg Kading, we're going to get into him a lot too, pause. I think he leaked this audio. But again, this is the audio that could never be used against him no matter what he says. But here's also the caveat. He has to tell the truth.
You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looked at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, And then, Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
In
of
the
line.
back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside of their
Jumping
car?
in. I seen a bullet going Suge head. I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot
Who's this guy?
across Dre?
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would drove on my side. I would have popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
I'm not gonna go into details on that one. Keep it streets, homie. I ain't gonna go into details.
Hilarious. I ain't gonna go into details on that one. I'm gonna have to keep it street. Nah, this is great. Yo, this is great. I ain't gonna go into details on that one, but I'm gonna keep it street. Chat, let me then just use his proffer to paint the picture of what's going on, okay? By the way, this is the car. I actually could show y'all the turn or the intersection where it happened. So this is a white Cadillac here, and Baby Lane is the shooter, right? Who's the guy in the back right, but the car they're shooting at with Pac is over here. So they're saying he leans over this nigga and then dumps, okay? He dumps out the window because apparently the gun that Von Zip had gave Keefe D, I guess when it came time to do the murder, he threw it in the back and said, all right, one of y'all niggas could do, right? Okay, so this is great. So he said he won't say nothing because he's trying to keep it in the street. Perfect.
Well, I'm gonna
Yo, this is why Vlad is devious. This nigga said, I ain't gonna say nothing about this. I'm gonna keep it in the street. You wanna hear what Vlad says?
read from the book.
I'm gonna read from the book, nigga.
Well,
So
let him buy the book then.
Okay, well, I'm just going to read this passage. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first shot skinned Suge in the head, and I thought that motherfucker was dead. I had heard some stories, supposedly that Suge used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded, and he was the one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so I wouldn't get hit.
Basically, yeah.
White Cadillac, arm came out.
Okay, also, that last part is important because, remember, they see the car. Apparently, I also got to paint the picture. It's a bunch of cars that was in a motorcade damn near. They pull up on it. Pac's window is down. The dude sees him. He leans over. He starts shooting at Tupac. And before they kind of skirt off, there is somebody who returns fire at them. So people did return fire at them. And that's why I'll just throw somebody else into it. That's why Keefe D is saying he ducked down.
Out the back seat and start letting off.
What went through your head when you saw that?
They shoot my nigga.
So the bullets started flying. Tupac and Suge's car get all shot up. Was there, and I'd heard different versions of the story, but the one version I heard was that that their entourage started shooting back.
Basically, yes.
Okay. Does anyone from the death row side return fire?
Yes.
Okay, so this is another key figure in this entire thing. This guy is Reggie Wright Jr. He was head of security. I believe also he worked with law enforcement in some capacity at a point. But so this guy, he's head of security or was head of security for Death Row Records. All right, Reggie Wright Jr.
Okay. Can you say who that was?
Yeah, he's no longer with us. His name was Buntry.
Buntry, right?
Buntry.
One of Suge's right-hand guy, our good friend, Alton McDonald. He chased the car down. He also received one gunshot to his vehicle. His car was shot. He had a black Toyota Supra.
Okay, so after they shoot Pac, one of the cars that's in that line, oh shit, there's shots being fired. They chase after the white Cadillac who tries to get out of there. And there's an individual, you don't need to know him that much right now, but Buntry, that's his name, he fired back. So he's a nigga like, yo, like, again, you're going to realize how some of these stories mirror other stories later on. Like, this kind of is almost like the King Von situation. You get what I mean? But anyway, like a fight turned into something else, and then other people. Anyway. So, yeah, bunch of shot at the dudes. From what we know, nobody got shot, but that white Cadillac got out of there.
And him and another guy returned shots at that car.
Yeah, they saying they left their guns at home, though. They started shooting back. Then some chicks was in the sea breeze, started following a white sea breeze, ragtop sea breeze.
Why were the girls following you guys?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's crazy.
In the midst of this, remember, Tupac is a worldwide superstar. So when they pull up by the light, well, he even says it. He says the only reason, because they were looking for Tupac, they were driving around looking for Tupac. They seen some women who were like, Tupac. Like, so, you know, that's what they were like, oh, there he is type shit. You know what I mean? So there's these women who are also in the midst who, by the way, ironically, is a group of women that that alerted them to Tupac's whereabouts. And I guess, like, after the shots get fired, these same women, like, they're probably also frats. They don't know what to do. They said the women were almost kind of following them. I don't know what the fuck. Anyway.
But I guess their window got shot out.
Front windshield, yeah. Yeah.
And they stopped following you at that point.
Exactly.
So by the way, I guess, you know, remember, they're getting out of the scene. They just got shot at a couple times by Suge's right-hand man, Buncher, and another guy. But then there's some girls also behind them. So they're probably just trying to get out of there. They're probably shooting back or whatever. A bullet hits the windshield of the girls. They stop following. They ain't about that life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, shit, never mind. You got it.
I've talked to a couple people that were there about the situation. And from what they told me was that, you know, you guys came up, you know, the car that you were in came up behind Tupac's car. You guys didn't, the cars were not facing each other.
No, they weren't facing each other.
They were not facing each other.
Gutter lane.
You guys got up parallel to them, behind them. And, you know, when you look
side by side.
Side by side. So how would you even see Tupac reach for anything if you're driving behind him?
We weren't driving behind. I tell you, we were side by side at the light.
Oh, okay. You guys were already side by side.
Yeah.
So you guys ended up going back to the hotel together afterwards.
Yeah.
Someone actually suggested that y'all pour out a little bit of liquor for Tupac.
No, I wouldn't pour out a little liquor for us. Pour it down our throat.
I'm going to read from the book.
Okay.
We made it back to the hotel. We popped our bottles and partied like it was any other night. Of course, someone suggested that we pour out a little for Tupac, which we did. And smoked.
Okay, so I think y'all get it, but, you know, try to make this. I think y'all, you know, obviously I know y'all smart, but maybe I'm the stupid one. So, yeah, this is Microsoft Paint, okay? So essentially, this is a roadway. Okay. Wait, I gotta make it smaller, my bad. Here we go. So essentially, this is a roadway, right? Let's go. Bap. Okay, right? But it's a multi-lane road. Actually, I can show you the road. I think it might be even another lane at the intersection. Car here. Car here. Car here. I think car here. They pull up here. And I think Pac was here. Suge was here. There's an intersection here. And I'm trying to get y'all to visually see like what the fuck was going on, okay? I'm going to come back to this diagram. Don't worry about it. Y'all like my mini detectives. You feel me? I got to put y'all on game. Y'all going to help me solve this shit. This already solved, but.
Our weed like we had planned to in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just made the book get cited on me. We ain't pouring out no liquor for him.
You guys didn't pour out any liquor for Tupac?
I just, you know, yeah, that was a suggestion, but I ain't pouring out no liquor for him. That was a suggestion of one of the homies, yeah.
Okay. So, you guys leave Vegas, what, the next day?
Yeah. Left the next day, that Monday.
Well, you said that you guys went and stashed the gun, I guess, on one of the wheels in the Cadillac. But when you came back, the gun was gone.
Yeah.
You guys drove back in that white Cadillac back to L.A.
No, I didn't drive
Back to Compton. No?
No, I didn't drive it back.
Okay, well, somebody drove. One of the homies drove the Cadillac. Okay, I got it.
Vlad asked
And
the
then
right
you
questions.
guys went and got the Cadillac repainted, I guess?
Yeah, you got it painted white, turned it back in.
Okay, and it was a rental?
Yeah.
And then you said, you told Baby Lane, don't tell nobody what happened, not even your mama. Don't say a motherfucking thing.
Nobody.
If anyone asked what happened, nothing.
Yeah. Told the whole car that. We came back Sunday. That Monday, I was sitting on in our neighborhood. Reggie Sr., the captain of the Compton Police, comes up.
Okay. Oh yeah, Reggie Sr., the father of the other guy who I showed you. Remember I said that he was Reggie Jr.? He's a police officer.
Run the stop sign. I guess he had just finished debriefing his soldiers at the Compton PD. He run our stop sign on my street, came up, jumped out of his car and like, hey motherfucker, let me tell you something, Keefe, you killed my son, motherfucker, it's on. I'm like, what the fuck is you talking about? Fuck you. He's like, I'm just telling you, motherfucker, the belt's coming off. Like, this motherfucker's stupid. Then 2 hours later, he get our little trap spot raided, take all our guns, all that shit. So it's basically the city of Compton police is against the South Sides. So, but it was some dudes from the Compton.
Okay. Good place to stop his story. So he basically kind of gave up as much as he's going to give up. Now, and again, Vlad has a lot of these interviews, but some other people has it too. Who gives a great summation of this is an actual detective who solved this whole thing, okay? Remember that audio y'all heard, which is a proffer agreement? And I said this guy leaked it. He's the guy who was working the case. Listen to this.
Well, when we were looking at Tupac's murder, we were really evaluating two theories. The Suge Knight did it theory or the Southside Crips did it theory. Yeah. And as we began to kind of go through a process of elimination, we were able to pretty quickly dismiss the Suge Knight aspect, the Suge Knight.
It was always ridiculous. By the way, so there was a theory that maybe, again, people were saying that Pac was about to leave death row because, there's a lot of people leaving death row, okay? They felt like Pac was going to leave death row, and they felt like maybe Suge got him killed for that reason. Now, if you think about it with your brain, if you're going to get a motherfucker killed and you're going to have him shot up in a drive-by, you're not going to be sitting next to him, especially you're the fat motherfucker and he's the skinny one. Them bullets miss him, it's in your gut. So again, that theory kind of fell flat.
Theory behind Tupac's murder.
Right.
And that really had us focusing in on the Southside Crips.
Right, because the Suge Knight theory never made any sense to me because you got a guy that's like 3 times the size of Tupac.
Oh, he said the same thing.
Who in their right mind would try to orchestrate a hit on someone while you're in the car?
Sit next to him.
I guess there was bullets all over the car. Like, this was not like a precision sniper or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
It made no sense completely.
By the way, I see all y'all super chats I'm going to get to in a little bit. I'm just trying to continue the story. And chat, just to let you know, because I know some people, I see people on Twitch, whatever. Hey, we're probably going to be talking about this for the next 2 hours. Like, this is at least a 2-hour, really methodical, really get into everything. Our rest of topics, we're going to hit after the 2-hour mark. Trust me, I'm here all night. Don't worry. We here, baby. Okay? Y'all just got to stay up. Okay? Drink some coffee. We're going to be good. But we going to get through this. It's okay? Don't rush me. We're going to get through this.
Surface, it's a rather implausible theory.
Yeah. So Once you started actually looking into the whole Southside Crip thing.
Here we go.
Group of them. There was about 10 of them out in the force.
Okay, again, I'm skipping past that. Y'all could get the relevant parts.
For these electronic crimes.
Okay. Oh, what kind of wiretap crimes were you?
Using a public utility in order to commit a crime.
Okay.
So there's a lot of little technical, white-collar type of crimes.
I see what you're saying.
By the way, thank you for the 5 West Philly Leaf on Twitch. You said, look up Gene Deal. He was Diddy bodyguard. We're going to get to that. As I said, man, it's going to be a one.
So you guys just basically showed up at Keefe D's house?
That's correct.
Okay. Was it you and another officer?
It was. It was me and my partner, Darren Dupree.
Okay. So you just knocked on his door unannounced?
That's correct. We the garage door was open. He came outside and we encountered him initially right in his driveway.
What was the sort of initial reaction when 2 cops suddenly show up at your door like that?
I can't speak for him. I mean, Keefe D, comes from a long history of criminal activity and police encounters. So it wasn't his first rodeo. But I'm sure he was quite curious as to why we were there.
Okay. So when you initially started talking to him, how did you sort of present the information to him?
We sat down in his garage and we explained to him that we had been conducting a long-term covert operation, looking at him and others, members of his family even, in a big drug trafficking ring. And once he realized we knew what we were talking about, we were dropping names and talking about events that we witnessed, then he knew.
So if you're following the story, remember, Pac gets killed. These guys are from L.A. They're not from Vegas. They go back to Vegas. Or they go back to L.A., I mean. Now, Tupac's murder shaking the entire nation. Now, L.A. police takes an interest in this case because the people they suspect to have killed Tupac already been doing a bunch of crime in the area. Notably, this Keefe D dude, who's the shot caller of South something Crips, he's big in the drug trade. So they basically pull up on him. They pull up to his house and say, yo, brother, we know about all the drugs you're smuggling. Okay? Imagine that. Like, imagine somebody just pulling up like, yo, I know about all the illegal shit you're doing. And you think they're bullshitting at first, but they're saying everything they know for a fact, which means they got you.
Knew that there were some serious problems.
Now, why did you go to his house as opposed to bring him in?
We had,
Good question.
that was our kind of strategic approach, was, we knew that we needed him to talk. And so we wanted to be as cordial initially as we could. We wanted to give him the opportunity to evaluate what we're telling him and then make a decision whether or not he wanted to cooperate. So immediately we advised him, get yourself an attorney, and meet us down at the U.S. Attorney's office, and let's talk this out.
Okay. So he went and got an attorney.
That day, we met that afternoon in the United States Attorney's office.
Okay, so that's pretty quick.
Immediately.
Okay. So...
Okay. Well, you guys heard that part.
When
Self-explanatory.
you met up with him, was he... Well, when you initially gave him all that information about all the surveillance he did and everything, was he pretty shooken up, or...?
You could kind of see the wheels turning in his head. I think, he's a sophisticated, smart guy as far as street crimes go. So, he knew that we weren't bullshitting, and he had his back up against the wall. So, I think for him it was just one of these, aha moments.
So he went and met with you at the U.S. Attorney's office.
With an attorney.
And was there a deal that you offered him at that point?
It's not a deal, it's an agreement. It's known as a proffer agreement.
Okay.
And
this is again, remember I said a bunch of these things before, but this is the thing I was talking about. So remember, he killed Tupac, or his cousin, or his nephew killed Tupac, but he was in the car. They left Vegas, go back to L.A. People are taking interest in that. They pull up on him and say, yo, bro, we know you smuggling hella drugs, dog. Okay? And the way they approach him, they don't approach him with, yo, slap cuffs on you, you're under arrest. They basically let him know about the covert operation they've have going on, and they said, yo, we could discuss it more. He gets a lawyer, they meet at the U.S. Attorney's office, and he's now, basically, this is a part about the proffer that's really important, so let's listen carefully.
he's given the opportunity through a
Lachelle, you like the Halloween theme? Appreciate you.
agreement between his attorney and the United States attorney to evaluate whether or not it's in his best interest to cooperate. And so that was the arrangement, that he would sit down and tell us everything we wanted to know about anything we asked, and that he had to be entirely truthful, or else he would be charged, not only for the drug crimes, but for potentially his own confession.
Okay. So he sat down with you and started.
Okay. Now, by the way, I know I'm helping you guys navigate through this, but I'm not knowledgeable of every single thing, so I'm also learning too. I think they disposed of even charging him, right? Or maybe they gave him some type of, qualified immunity to the drug charges. They were pretty much, it's basically the cops threatening you, saying, hey, listen, if you don't do this, we could arrest you for that. You know what I mean? So again, I don't think he ever gets, maybe he did get charged with it, but let me keep hearing the story.
Confessing.
That's correct.
How long did he talk for?
Well, we had multiple interviews. It wasn't just one time. We sat down and spoke a variety of times on a variety of different topics. But specifically the Tupac and Biggie cases were the ones that we were the most interested in. So we spoke for hours over a long period of time.
Keefe, today what we're going to do, we're just going
This is the audio of one of those sessions.
to go over with a fine-tooth comb the Las Vegas incident, 'cause we're going to draft up our report as regarding that specific thing. And then we're going to cover a few other things that we do have to emphasize to you, that everything in this report has to be right on, because if down the road it's determined that some of these details are incorrect, then everything's off the table. So everything in this report cannot be like that report.
Hey, I want to say this though too. I feel like I said that day, don't bullshit me, and I won't bullshit y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Lane starts blasting. You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looks at me.
Okay.
Why are you looking right at me? Fucking known each other since we were 7, 8 years old.
When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
In
of
the back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside of their
Jumping
car?
in. I seen a bullet going Suge head. I thought he was dead.
By the way, he describes horrifyingly like the moments of Pac getting shot, and like you got to remember, I forgot. I think it was maybe 5 times. I forgot how much times he was hit, but Pac is excitedly jumping all over the place, and he's trying to obviously avoid getting shot, but he's the closest person getting shot. You know what I mean? And they're aiming at him.
I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot across Dre?
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would drove on my side. I would popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
The group had gone out to Las Vegas without any intent whatsoever to have any problems. They did not go out there with any specific motivation to hunt down Tupac or to have any encounters with Suge Knight. But just by the nature of the rivalry that was taking place between them, they began to have encounters. There was an encounter between the Southside Crips and Suge Knight and his entourage in the arena prior to the event where Orlando Anderson and Tupac Shakur get into a fight.
In Vegas, there was an encounter?
Correct. Prior to the videotape that we see of Tupac and Orlando Anderson getting into an altercation.
Okay, I didn't know about this part. This is the first time hearing about this. So what actually happened before the videotaped altercation?
Well, inside the arena, there was just a brief encounter. Now, these Crips and Bloods from these sets, they know each other.
By the way, so it comes back a little bit to Crips and Bloods. Suge were rolling with a bunch of Bloods. There was a bunch of Bloods at the time protecting and were basically the muscle for Suge, okay? Suge himself was not a Blood. Tupac himself was not a Blood nor a gang member, but the people they aligned with were Bloods, okay? By the way, these Bloods didn't see eye to eye, ironically, with those same Crips that eventually one of them, Tupac, later jumps and then he whatever, okay?
They've encountered each other before during other confrontations, and so they recognize each other.
Somebody says Suge was a blood. Was Suge a blood? I thought he wasn't. Okay, I might be wrong on that. Never mind, I'm wrong. I'm definitely wrong. Okay, thank y'all. Y'all corrected me, man. I quit. Tupac just wasn't gang affiliated. I didn't know Suge was a blood. Okay, I'm learning too. I bet.
And there's a little bit of a push and shove match.
Suge was a mob pyro,
but statement is made from Suge.
Okay,
Knight.
so basically, this guy just told us that before that infamous video of Pac jumping this dude, there was another altercation. So tensions are high. So this was the second altercation that Pac, Pac was in maybe his first altercation, but there was second altercation between these groups, the Bloods and the Crips, right?
Right. That he's untouchable, and the Crip, replies, well, you can be touched. And this was set a little bit of a adversarial type of setting or environment right off the bat.
By the way, if you guys are on YouTube, I want to see people in the chat. I'm reading all your comments. You have to hit the subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button. After 5 minutes, you guys can type. If you guys are on Twitch, hit the follow button. You guys will be able to talk. And, of course, if you're on Rumble, you guys should be making an account that I can see what the fuck y'all are talking about, too. Come on.
As they saw each other.
Okay. So then what happened after the fight?
After the fight, Tupac Shakur and several members of the Mob Piru, Suge's entourage, and members of Death Row, they're all kind of milling around. I don't know if you've been to the MGM, but after a fight, it's just, it's pandemonium. There's just people everywhere. And because there was already this encounter, Trayvon Lane, who had a prior confrontation with Orlando Anderson, recognized Orlando from a prior fight between the two of them, and tells Tupac, hey, be on guard, there's one of our enemies. Tupac takes it upon himself to go over and initiate a altercation with Orlando. The rest of the Mob Piru run over and jump in as kind of a gangbang.
Okay.
And
all right.
Once there was so we know that Orlando shot at least once behind him and hit Buntry's car. How many shots that Neckbone may have shot downrange, we just don't know. We don't have that information.
So Orlando's car shot back and hit the car from Suge's entourage.
That's correct.
Okay.
Did anyone get? Cool.
Okay, so we hear from this guy, and we're probably going to hear from him a little bit more. Let me continue to decipher and break this down. Okay. He also talks about the autopsy. Okay, all right, cool. So remember, Pac is dead. Remember, now we're at the point of the story of why Keefe D is being arrested now. So he basically cooperated. Not cooperated. He did this proffer deal, right? Now, here's the thing about a proffer deal, too, right? Here's the thing about a proffer deal. A proffer, which, by the way, this is the whole... You remember Rollo? Remember Rollo was fighting, like, those allegations, too? By the time I'm done with y'all going to be law students, okay? Rollo proffer, okay? Rollo responds to snitching allegations, and it was about a proffer. So a proffer is a legal term that technically, honestly, it doesn't necessarily mean you always snitch. It means you definitely give information. And if you're one of those guys, maybe you're 1090 Jake with it, where any information is snitching, cool. But you might give information or you might verify something that's already known, right? That's not necessarily snitching, right? A proffer doesn't mean you're like, yo, he did it type shit, right? A proffer is usually, sometimes in these investigations, factually and also verifying what the prosecutor or whoever think they already know. Or sometimes they'll even do a proffer for, hey, listen, I don't know, we'll do a proffer for you. You have some information that, again, without your knowledge of knowing that it has to do with this case, it does, but we still want to make sure you had nothing to do with the case. They'll do a proffer for that. A proffer do not mean snitching, okay? But you could snitch in a proffer, 100%. And I don't know if that's confusing, right? So going back to it, remember he does the proffer. We're getting, I don't know if I can find any more Keefe proffer. I don't think I could find any, whatever. Okay, cool. By the way, I'm going to play this interview. Salute to all these channels. This is Bomb First.
Greg.
This is really good. And by the way, this is actually not too long ago. Cool. By the way, interestingly enough, Vlad, who, you know, again, when these things are coming down, Vlad recently was contacted about the interviews. This is what happened. Check this out.
Keefe house gets raided.
Yeah.
In Nevada.
Hey, hold on. Press the 604. I see your comment on YouTube. It says, why would you verify if they already know? It's still telling. So in a lot of these proffer sessions of why people do it, right, it's usually almost an agreement to say, hey, listen, yo, we're not pursuing charges on, like, sometimes that person could be kind of involved. Like, if they really want to get technical, they could probably charge people for accessories or some shit like that. It's kind of like them saying, yo, if you help us verify these other situations, we're not fucking with you, right? So a proffer is usually used in a good faith scenario to usually help the defendant, or not defend, because you're probably not, sometimes you can do a proffer, you're not charged. It's used to help the person who's doing the proffer for whatever reason. Okay? Now, here's the thing if you don't want to do a proffer. There's a lot of things that could happen. For example, with Keefe D, him not doing a proffer, he was probably going to be facing drug charges really quickly. He probably also would not be getting any type of leeway when it comes to dealing with those charges. And clearly, with the cops giving him the information about what they had on him in that covert investigation, and also his lawyer heard that, they probably realized, bro, you're fucked. So him doing the proffer probably cleared up certain shit on how the cops were going to approach that charge on him, if they were at all, as long as he was truthful in the proffer. Okay? For somebody who's not charged, a proffer could prevent a bunch of other things. For example, all right, put it like this. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm the bodyguard. I'm the bodyguard for, I don't know, I'm the bodyguard for Big Meech. I'm the bodyguard for Big Meech. And Big Meech and his homies was doing mad other shit, but like Big Meech is almost like a celebrity figure, so he kind of has bodyguards, but he got goons too. They tell me, or they bring me in and say, yo, check this out. We want Big Meech. We don't give a fuck about you, okay? Here's the thing. We need to verify or whatever certain information, and we could do this via a proffer, which is going to be secret. We could do this via proffer, or we're going to subpoena you and put you on the stand, whether in a grand jury or in open court, and we're going to put you in a position where you're either going to be seen as a snitch, or you're going to, what do you call it again? Fuck. You're going to lie and perjure yourself. Nobody wants to be in court. Nobody wants to be in open court, right? Nobody wants to be in a testifying in a grand jury hearing. So you might just do a proffer, and who knows? It might be like, yo, it doesn't have to be like, yo, did you see him do that? It might be anything from, yo, remember that chain that Big Meech gave you? Do you still have the chain? Now, granted, they're asking you this before they have to go do a search warrant, but if you truthfully tell them and hand it over, it will prevent all the other embarrassment, right? So again, the proffer is a tool that the government uses, federal government uses a lot, but also state and, you know, local, city, and municipal. Obviously, it's going to be a serious charge for it. Anyway, let's get back to the Vlad shit.
There is apparently a
Somebody say roundabout way of snitching. Oh my God. Okay, snitching. Okay, if we're talking about snitching, if I'm telling on you, I'm telling on you for a reason. For a reason, right? I'm telling on you that I don't get in trouble. A proffer isn't necessarily snitching. You get what I mean? In a proffer session, again, those statements can be used against you, but it doesn't mean you're giving up information that will 100% convict other people. Usually that's the aim, though. But, all right, let me ask you a question. Okay, perfect. Let me ask you a question. So there's a bodega. There's two gangs warring, let's say New York. Two gangs. We're going to make up names for that. I don't want to put nobody in the spotlight. Gang A and Gang B are warring in New York City. One person from Gang A sees one person from Gang B in a local bodega. Shoots the guy, kills him. Okay? Shoots the guy, kills him. All right, bet. The police already know, right? Already know, they do a RICO on both of them or whatever. They come to you, you're the bodega owner, and they say, yo, we need that video. We know you got the video. We need the video. And rather us having to put your name in official court documents as us subpoenaing you, because you got to remember, if now we have to subpoena you, these gang members' lawyers are going to know, because it's going to be in discovery, that they got the video because you were subpoenaed. You get what I mean? Or we could just fucking bring you into open court. You don't want to be into these motherfucking gang people beef. They're saying, just give us the surveillance tape. That might be done via proffer agreement. Do you get what I'm saying? That might be done via a proffer agreement. Now, I'm giving you a basic situation where I think that wouldn't be snitching. If you're the bodega owner, you're not snitching, right? But obviously, in the more extreme cases, like for example with Keefe D, of course that's snitching, right? Like, yeah, like at that point, it's like, yo, tell us everybody else that was in the car, and Keefe D probably would think, well, a lot of these guys are out the way, so I'm not really snitching. But in Keefe D's case, the proffer is a snitching, okay?
Grand jury that are interviewing people as we speak.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you heard about him, about them raiding his house?
I mean, I think everyone was surprised. You know, like, the case is 27 years old. The proffer agreement happened years ago. There's been multiple documentaries about it. They're going to do it now? Okay. You know, the question is whether it's going to be like a real prosecution or whether they're just going to, hey, listen, just plead out to something slight and so we could just close the case. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Have they reached out to you about any of your footage?
I'm going to give you the exclusive on this. They actually have tried. I've gotten a bunch of phone calls and emails and stuff like that, but I'm not cooperating with this.
Okay. Do you think it's... I mean, I'm assuming they can access the interview on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming what they want is the uncut version, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just to see if there was anything talked about.
Correct. Yeah, but my thing, and I've always held this stance when it comes to people that interview on my platform, I'm not going to have you come to my platform and do an interview only to then work against you with the police. Regardless of what people think that I really do, the reality of what I do, and I've had to do this before. I remember this one time they tried to seize this one interview of someone who asked me to take it down like the next day.
Okay.
Because they were fighting a case at the time, and their lawyer asked me to take him down. They then wanted to get the footage from me, and I said no, and they were like, well, we're going to put you on the stand, whatever, we're going to subpoena you. Like, all right, well, I'm lawyering up then.
Mm-hmm.
So my lawyer got involved, and they weren't able to get it, and, you know, ultimately the guy ended up losing his case anyways, but we weren't involved in it. So if you interview on my platform, if the police then try to approach me on it, I'm always...
Okay, so essentially, Vlad is admitting that Las Vegas police reached out to him with an inquiry to say, hey, listen, we know you've interviewed this idiot who's been self-snitching on himself a bunch of times. Yo, give us the footage. We need the footage. And it's not that they can't just download it from YouTube, right? They did. They're just saying, we want to see maybe the unedited versions. Maybe you have some B-roll footage. I don't know. Maybe you're one of them people that's always recording, right? And maybe he says certain shit off camera that he wouldn't say on camera, and you got it. So we just want everything, right? Vlad, you know, I think he's taking like a very journalistic stance, which by the way is going to cost him a lot of money because anytime either the federal government or even state or local government come at you about anything, especially if you're a witness or allegedly a witness, right? Or you could have information or video that could be evidence in their case, they're going to start twisting your arm, right? And that's why you got to have to get a lawyer. Vlad, I think on integrity, he's saying, yo, first of all, I know people say I'm the feds, but I'm going to just get a lawyer and just tell the feds to fuck off. Again, we got to take him at his word, but shit. I don't think they need no behind-the-scene footage for this guy, okay? All right, cool. So let's keep it moving. So he does the proffer. I'm going to still stick with Greg Kading. I'm going to still stick with Greg Kading because here's the thing. He's been, and you'll notice from this interview, right? Look at this. I know he's clean shaven and shit, but look from this interview, which was years ago. By the way, we got to get into Mob James too. Look at his face here, and then look at his face here. You can see a little bit aged. Bro, this is a case that spanned years. So this is one of the most recent interviews this detective did. Remember, he worked on it. He's going to talk about some of the things that surrounded this situation. Here this goes.
Due to the interviews and the stuff that he's been doing recently?
So he's talking about all the interviews that Keefe D is doing. By the way, they're all doing interviews. This cop himself retired from the force, and he's doing interviews. Tupac's death has always been like this mystery, and people love Pac so much. Here we go.
I've been hearing rumors about all this. I've gotten some...
Who is this guy? This is the cop who was investigating kind of what happened in Vegas. He's a LA cop, though. And he had Keefe D pretty much do a proffer agreement. I feel like, come on, you got to keep up now. He had Keefe D do a proffer agreement because he went to Keefe D and said, bro, we know you selling mad drugs, okay? And yeah.
Text messages, and some people have forwarded me some of the YouTube clips. So yeah, I'm aware of it.
Okay. Have you heard anything outside of just the rumors, or just you've heard just the rumors pretty much?
Okay, let me...
Yeah, against self-incrimination. So we offer this certain times, during law enforcement investigations.
He's explaining the proffer again.
We'll say, listen, if you'll sit down and answer our questions and be honest about responding to our questions, we won't use your information against you. We'll use your information to prosecute other people. And if other people provide information that we can use against you, we most certainly will. We just won't use your own self-incriminating statements against you. That's a proffer agreement. And that gives people the liberty to go and talk about their criminal behavior without the fear of turning around and having that used against them. Because then they wouldn't cooperate with law enforcement under most circumstances. What do they have to gain? Well, in Keefe D's situation, he had a lot to gain because he was looking at trying to mitigate these drug charges that we...
Okay, so once again, remember, he's trying to lessen these drug charges that the cops confronted him. He's like, all right, bet, if y'all sure I could just tell you what happened with the Tupac murder and y'all could never charge me for the Tupac murder, fine, I'll talk about the Tupac murder. And that's why he's on tape doing it.
Built against him. So him and his attorney and the U.S. attorney all agreed to do this proffer agreement. And immunity is completely different. Immunity is where you cannot prosecute somebody.
Ever.
You've given somebody an agreement and you can't prosecute them regardless of what evidence you build against them. Immunity is different. Immunity means you can't prosecute them. A proffer session means we can't use your statements, but we can still prosecute you if we get other information that is of such quality that we can, file charges. Make sense? One's still prosecutable, one's not.
Gotcha. Okay, so...
In that information that he provided us can be used against him to do what they call, not character...
it would take.
His own statements are enough to indict him. It doesn't take a lot of evidence to get a grand jury to, issue an indictment. It doesn't take very much at all. And, but when you take what he has to say and then you can shore that up or reinforce that with other testimonial or circumstantial evidence, then it starts to validate his own confession. And that's just building the strength of the case against him.
Yeah, like outside the club 662, if, James had saw Keefe D and that happened.
Okay, all right. So again, I'm gonna skip to another thing. So I'm gonna skip to now back to Keefe D on why he did the proffer.
Dirt Rock, who was cooperating with the police,
came
and did a drug deal.
Yeah.
While wearing a wire or cooperating in whatever way.
Yeah. It wasn't just him. It was a few of them.
A few.
Hold on.
And
what were the charges?
Here we go.
That's correct.
Vlad always does his flashback. Here we go.
Get yourself an attorney.
They came and said that they want to talk to me and show me something.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I went down there and there was the U.S. attorneys. Dude said he was from D.C. and he was out here to get me. And all they did was threaten me. Said they're gonna take all our properties. Take all our properties and put us all in jail.
By the way, remember, they're leveraging this drug charge. And by the way, there's certain, I forgot what the actual law is called. Y'all probably going to tell me in a second. If you deal drugs at certain places, they could use a seizure law to actually take, they could take over the house that you were using as a trap house. If you're using your car as a transport for drugs, they could use that. So really, the cops is using tactics to say, they're trying to threaten more than you. Like, you obviously were complicit in selling drugs, but they're going to threaten, we could get your mama house, we're going to get your sister's house, we're going to get everything. You get what I mean? Yeah, somebody says a civil asset forfeiture. Yes, it's definitely forfeiture, yes.
Put our kids on the street.
Okay.
So I told him all I would do was plead guilty in the first court appearance to get the lowest thing going. And the other dude stood up and like, motherfucker, we going to take your ass. You're not going to ever get out. You're going to tear you up. You know what I'm saying? You're going to die in here.
Well, right. Well, the charges that they were...
By the way, chat, that's an important thing. I know y'all hate when me pausing, but I got to also think about this. I got to make y'all think about this. You're going to hear him say one of the reasons why he does this proffer is because they threaten him that he's going to die in jail. They're like, motherfucker, we going to give you some... You ain't never going to get out. You going to die in jail. So he opts to take this fucking proffer agreement. Keep in mind, he's 60 right now. He's 60 years old. This charge of murder or this indictment of murder, if he gets convicted on it, which, by the way, there's so much proof and his own statements will be used against him, he's definitely going to die in jail. Don't you think they might come to him and offer him maybe another deal? Hey, if you could get somebody else locked up, maybe you'll get out, 15 years. But you got to give it somebody else. So that's the bigger play that might be happening.
The crimes that they were charging you with would have given you life in prison. He was about to get charged with this PCP and drug ring and cocaine ring. Had you guys gone forward with those charges and he got convicted in a court for those charges, how long would he have gotten in prison?
Life.
Life. So he was fighting a life sentence, essentially.
That's correct.
Why
he
life?
would have gotten 25 because there's a minimum mandatory sentencing, and because of his prior drug convictions and the amount of drugs that we would have charged him with and the crimes that we would have charged him with, he would have gotten 25 to life. And that's when you're in your late 40s. That's a
PCP from me. I would have pleaded guilty in the first court appearance. I would have got me like 10 to 20 years.
Okay.
But the other dudes that stood up and said, man, we got you on several murders.
Ooh.
You're not ever, motherfucker, it's over. Our conviction rate is 98%.
Thank you for that Cannabis Kicks. Thank you for that donation. Useful information. People say apparently his mama was also on that particular case. So it's one of those things where now they got your mom and everybody involved. If you could slime your way out of this, you're going to do it, and that's the proffer.
The feds.
Yeah, so they showed me, the first day they pulled down a thing and showed me a little bit. So it was right before the holidays. They said, enjoy your holidays, come back here on the 9th of January and let us know your decision, what you want to do. But they was talking about, we want you to do the, what's that dude name? That Denzel played, Frank Lucas. We want you to do the Frank Lucas. So that morning on the 9th, I said, motherfucker, let me tell you something. I'm not gonna sell out none of my peers or none of that shit. I'm gonna tell you what the fuck I did, and I know what you want. Like, yeah, you right. They had already had all the evidence, dude. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said the motherfucking thing. They already knew everything.
Okay.
Because while I was in jail in 98, 99, they kept coming up there. They were showing me that they had me because they put a position where we were sitting in the cars. You know what I'm saying? They kept on showing me. And
Okay. So he basically admits why he did the proffer. Okay? Now, we're going to go on a little bit different tangent. So we've kind of got this Keefe D character. We got him down pat. He admits he was in the car. He threw the gun in the back seat. Apparently the guy who Tupac jumped grabs the gun, leans over, shoots Tupac. They get out of there. The girl's following. The girl's windshield got shot. They eventually get out of there. They repaint the car. It was a rental. They turn it back in. All that shit. Great. We're caught up. He gets back to LA, does a proffer. Perfect. Cool. Now we have to get into Greg Kading a bit. Okay? Now we got to get into Greg Kading a bit. Now, here we go. All right?
Okay. Greg, thank you.
Give me 1 second. I got to search this. Okay. Let me see. Also, we're going to get into Reggie Wright a little bit too, but let me see. Let me just find the full interview with Greg Kading. I'll find that shit. Essentially, now we're going to hear about the conspiracy surrounding this shit. Hold on. Give me a second. It's gotta find it. Where is this Greg Kading interview? Oh, did I pull out the full version? It might not be. Okay, I don't think they do. It's fine. Okay. Is it this? Maybe this is it. Give me a second.
Either had worked once or twice, and Reggie, maybe he can, maybe he has his own employee records. Guys that were going to be part of it, but once the department came out and said, listen, that's a no-fly zone.
Okay. Actually, before that, thank you. Before that, I'm going to get to his video. Remember, I'm showing you from both sides. Keefe D, FBI told me Eric Von Zip. Remember I told you about the Von Zip dude? This is important. By the way, this interview was 5 months ago on Vlad. Here we go.
Well, in fact, there was the rumor that after Pac got killed, Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point. They were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The feds said that too.
He said that shit actually happened. Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got killed, Puffy allegedly gave the money.
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy would be in prison now, money for hire, a murder for hire. So thank God. It's just a true story. I'm not saying yes or no, but if he would have gave them the money, it'd have been a murder for hire and Puffy would be locked up.
Yeah, I said he's a dirty motherfucker.
Yeah, and he even said that, like, in retrospect, that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to Puffy. By Zip stealing the money, now Puffy isn't connected to that shit. Or else it would have been like a murder for hire or something, you know what I'm saying?
The FBI said they would just zip.
So the FBI told you
said
the
he
same
was a
thing.
dirty motherfucker. Yeah.
So let's add this other element, right? Keefe D gets out of his drug charge by doing this proffer. He gives up information on what happened in the Tupac situation, the Tupac death in Vegas, right? Now they have that information, but honestly, that information doesn't get to subsequent arrests because those guys end up dying. There's another angle of this. Remember I told you who gave him the gun? The person who gave Keefe D the gun that he threw in the back seat that was used to kill Pac was somebody named Eric Von Zip. Okay? Now, Von Zip was not a dude from the West Coast. He was actually from the East Coast. And that is where there is conspiracies and theories of people believing that Diddy may have been involved. Now, the rumor is that Diddy had $1 million bounty up on Tupac. By the way, these are rumors. This is not something I'm claiming as a fact. These are conspiracy theories. By the way, these guys have spoken on it. And Keefe D is saying that through his legal dealings, and he said he got interviewed by the FBI, he says, and I think they told him this in an effort to try to get him to implicate Diddy or implicate Von Zip and Diddy. They told him, probably trying to antagonize him, yeah, remember that $1 million you thought you was going to get from the hit? Well, Diddy did pay out that money, but he gave it to Von Zip. And Von Zip, I think he kept it, right? So, again, this is where the story gets bigger.
FBI told you the Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's a dirty motherfucker. Everybody cross you. You're the last one to know every fucking thing. Even lawyers, your friends, everybody can cross your ass. You just don't know. Even the dudes you was riding in the car with every day, like a low jack. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Zip had a history of ripping people off.
Yeah. He never ripped me off.
Well,
otherwise he wouldn't have.
Did he technically do? I mean, if he kept the money.
Now, I'm going to see if I can find a picture of Eric Von Zip. And it's probably very interesting to figure out when he was alive and when he died. Is this him? Is this him? Yeah, I think this is him. So this was like the middle guy. Eric Von Zip. Okay. Now, here's why, again, this is interesting, right? So this is interesting, and I'm going to now bring in somebody else into this conversation. Gene Deal. Gene Deal worked as a security guard for Bad Boy back in the day. So I know I'm introducing the people, a lot of people to y'all. Hopefully y'all are getting this. I know if you know the story, like I'm being slow, but I'm being slow for the new people. Puffy's old security guard fell out with Puffy and has been doing interviews. Okay? He's also commented about some of these things, and this is what he's now says about this Eric Von Zip guy. Remember, that's the guy who allegedly gave the Glock to Keefe D. That gun killed Tupac. Also, apparently, the FBI tells Keefe D, yeah, you know Diddy paid out $1 million for that, but Von Zip took that $1 million check and ran with it. That's why you ain't get paid. And Keefe D said he never got a fucking dime. Here we go.
Well, Keefe talked about, various meetings he had with Puff, and there's words thrown out, according to Keefe, that Puff said, well.
By the way, Keefe D didn't knew Puff.
I'll pay $1 million to make this problem go away and so forth. And then after, Tupac passed away, there was a rumor that a payment went, from Puffy's camp, and it was supposed to go to Keefe D and the Southside guys. And according to TK Kirkland, Zip got that money and he kept it for himself? Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got killed, Puffy allegedly gave the money to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire.
Okay. Let's get to the bodyguard. What the bodyguard has to say.
Yeah, I could talk about it. I mentioned it on Doggy Diamond platform, and I had, I told MREC and some other people, if anything happened to me, this is all what happened. They got the whole tape. They got everything that, that went down or whatever like that I said, and I've already said it. What happened is that you had to understand who Zip was. Zip was a mastermind, a gangster, a pimp, a hustler, and he had more game than Kellogg's had flakes, brother. You understand? So, just for instance, before I break this check thing down to you, Zip used to do shit like that. He have 20 guys in the club with him, right? And he gonna say, yo, we got all these girls, we got chicks, we gonna get 20 bottles of champagne, 5 bottles of Grey Goose or Belvedere, and we gonna get 5 bottles of Hennessy. Now, he'll tell all 20 of the guys, I need like $400-500 from each one of y'all. You understand? Because they know in the club, bottles are $200 and better. You know what I mean? So we could drink all night and, we could show how the girls like that. Boom. Zip already went to the manager, and most managers and people in the clubs thought he was Puff's uncle.
Okay, so he's giving an example of why the Zip dude is basically a finesser. Okay, let's talk about the check. Let's get to the check talk.
Because ain't nobody took him to court.
Right, finessing people, basically.
Finessing people. I told you he had more game than Kellogg had flakes, man. You know what I'm saying? He could talk a well out of water. So now, after Pac got killed, and we heard about, somebody got a check or something like that, Zip came up on my man's spot. Because, he used to always try to, show him new cars and everything. Every time he got something new, he would come on the block, our block, and show it to us, either to the game room or on the block when we was cooking or whatever we were doing. And he came up there, and I heard TK Kirkland interview with you. He said he got a check for $5. It wasn't no check for no $500,000. Zip had a check in his right back pocket, and that check was for $1 million. He said he got Jimmy Henchman got him the check from Barry Hankerson or something like that. Barry Hankerson, I think, there was a Leah uncle or manager or something like that, gave him that check for Black Ground Records. That's what he said. Follow the paper. I didn't know he had a record label. I didn't know he had a record company, Black Ground label, but that's what he said he got the check for. You understand? Mm-hmm. I'm not the only one that's seen the check. There's other people that I'm not going to mention their name, but
so Diddy's bodyguard is saying that he's seen Von Zip with $1 million check, but according to why he had the check, it was supposed to be for a record deal or a record label. Interested. But I guess he's surprised because he's like, he don't know this guy to be any type of record label type of guy.
They know, they know who I am because we already discussed it and talked about it. You understand? And I told people that I was going to let the people know. He had a check for $1 million. But he said that Jimmy Henchman got it for him from Barry Hankerson for Black Ground Records. I didn't know he had a record company.
Well, ultimately, Keefe D and them never got the check, which in the grand...
Then let's go back to the detective who's going to help fill in all this story, because we got to figure out what's just hearsay, nonsense, and what has some merit. And this detective is pretty good in kind of, because, he had to do the legwork because he was a cop. He has to do the legwork to verify some of these things. Basically, the streets were talking.
depending on who you talk to, Tupac was considered himself Mob Piru himself. He had mob tattooed on his arm. Certain people considered him part of the mob. Other people considered.
Okay, so that's the Piru thing. Apparently, Tupac wasn't gang affiliated, but even some people said that he considered himself part of that gang.
Him, he was just cool with everybody, but because the murder happened on their watch, that made Mob Piru look soft if they didn't retaliate.
If we had our way, we'd have got him. He'd have got by the neighborhood.
Well, because even though technically Tupac wasn't a Piru, it happened under your watch.
He didn't sit in one spot and sit on the corner.
So they realize, the Southside Crips and Orlando Anderson, Keefe D, they know that, hey, we just hit this dude in Las Vegas, and it's on. It's a green light. And so you hunker down and you get your guns and you anticipate that there's going to be drive-by shootings or confrontations, or you kind of check out for a bit. If you have a place to hole up outside the city, then you do that. But at the same time, these guys are very self-assured and they believe in the strength of their gang, and they're violent and willing to take action. So, they also, it's part of that gang life, and they kind of embrace that. And so, to be involved in these shootings and everything, it just builds up the whole, it just. So immediately in the aftermath, Diddy hears about the shooting, finds out that there's, Tupac's been shot and is in the hospital in Las Vegas. And according to Keefe D, he gets a phone call. He's actually with Zip, the intermediary. And they're back in LA, and Zip takes a phone call. And it's Puffy on the other end of the line, hands the phone to Keefe D, and Puffy asks him, man, was that us? Was it, what just happened out there? Keefe D's like, yeah, that's us.
Okay. So then there's that $1 million.
Okay.
So now there's this
It wasn't in the
expectation.
neighborhood. It was at a park.
Yeah.
Outside
Okay.
the neighborhood.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, look. Oh,
My bad.
Exactly.
And they reported that back.
Yeah.
Here we go.
A mistake by having a big meeting in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it wasn't in the neighborhood. It was at a park outside of the. Yeah, they was there. Exactly.
And they reported that back.
Yeah. I wish you can enter the FBI's. They don't do shit like this. You know what I'm saying? Greg Kading.
Yeah, the FBI doesn't do a fucking Vlad interview. Like, what the fuck?
He was just a LA detective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he act like he made me crumble and all that. He didn't make me crumble. It's my friends around me. They took me down.
Right. Because, well, your whole life is being turned upside down.
Hold on, here we go.
You said that Puffy called and said, was that us? And you didn't say nothing.
I didn't say nothing. Yeah, you're right.
There's also, you go into the book.
So apparently this guy is claiming that after Tupac's murder, he gets a call and he speaks to Diddy directly, and Diddy says, was that us? Now, again, I got to also say these are allegations. This is what this guy has said, but he's been pretty truthful in snitching on himself. Who knows? He might lie on other people, though. Okay? But that's what he has said. Now, I gotta, let me see. I gotta try to connect this. Okay. Okay, so now you hear about the $1 million. Here we go.
Is there any time that he can talk about the
or on multiple interviews? That's all information that can absolutely.
Hold on, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I want to pull up the right shit. Fuck. Just give me 1 second, please. Have some patience with me. Hold on. So the clip I'm looking for, and maybe y'all could help me out. So the clip I'm looking for is that this detective eventually eventually strapped up Keefe D, or according to him, he was about to put a wire on Keefe D to try to implicate some more people as a part of their dealings. I just gotta fucking see if I could fucking find it. Here we go.
That this case was assigned to
bad.
Cliff Mogg, a detective with MI.
Oh, this is still a Vlad interview? No. It's not a Vlad interview. It's this guy, Bomb First. He's had some really good shit. Fuck. Okay, here we go.
Thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing, John.
The first question I want to get into, and then we'll get into some of the back stuff, is have you heard what Reggie had stated about a week ago, where he had heard rumblings that Vegas PD was possibly making some
I'm going to skip past
headway?
That's all information that can absolutely be.
Yeah, like outside the club 662, if, James hits...
James is claiming, or at least that in Las Vegas, that was used to kill Tupac.
At that point?
During the initial meeting, we just wanted them to see each other, greet each other, and then...
Here we go. Oh, so this is important.
Any transactions of funds...
Here we go.
Were used as a result.
So basically, I guess what I'm trying to prove is that, okay, now they know all the people who were involved in the killing. They have a motive. Tupac jumped the guy. But they're trying to figure out the bigger situation because there was this ongoing East Coast, West Coast beef, right? The streets is talking that there was supposed to be $1 million paid. So this cop tried to get Diddy, interestingly enough. And he tried to get Diddy through Keefe D. Now remember, Keefe D never got the money. The person who anybody, even Diddy's own bodyguard, said he's seen with $1 million check was Von Zip. Who's Von Zip? The guy who passed the gun the guy who gave the gun to Keefe D. Also the guy who was supposed to be the middleman or like the liaison if there was going to be $1 million bounty paid. Also, that's the same guy the FBI tells Keefe D, yo, he ran off with the millie. So the millie did get paid. Listen to this cop. He says some really interesting shit right here.
But when you take what he has to say and then you can shore that up or reinforce that
here we go.
with other testimonial or circumstantial evidence, then it becomes it starts to validate his own confession. And that's just building the strength of the case against him.
Yeah, like outside the club 662, if, James saw Keefe D in the white Cadillac.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. If James saw Keefe D in the Cadillac, then it's very valuable information because it puts Keefe D in the vehicle that was described as the assailant vehicle. It puts Keefe D in immediate proximity to the shooter, his nephew. It corroborates Keefe D's own statements about going to Club 662 and then leaving and then shooting Tupac shortly thereafter. So if you have an eyewitness that is corroborating the confession, that just further corroborates the confession. So yeah, that's very damning evidence if that's what Mob James is claiming, or at least if that's what he's telling Las Vegas PD.
Okay. Can you explain the incident that happened between Keefe D and Von Zip at a club in New York?
Right here.
Are you talking about when we took Keefe D out to New York in order to further our investigation?
Correct.
Took him to yeah. So Von Zip had a club out there called the Zip Code in Harlem. And we wanted to reunite Keefe D and Zip with the hopes of Keefe D being able to elicit self-incriminating statements from Zip. So we took him out there, tried to get them to reunite, hoping that Zip and Keefe D will sit down and have a conversation. Of course, Keefe D would have been wearing a body recorder, and we would have, had him discuss the gun that Zip gave him in Las Vegas that was used to kill Tupac. We would have had them discuss the relationship with Puffy. We would have had them discuss any transactions of funds that were used as a result of the solicitation for Tupac's murder. So those are the things that we were hoping to accomplish by utilizing Keefe D as an informant. So that was the strategy, but it didn't come to fruition.
So now he's confirming that the police were trying to use Keefe D as an informant to try to get to Von Zip. Remember, again, I've told you about this Von Zip guy a million times, and you could only imagine if they're trying to get to Von Zip, they're probably trying to get to Diddy. The only thing that links Diddy to this whole thing is this Von Zip guy. By the way, he's currently dead. But it looks like for a second, it looks like they may have targeted, not even may, they definitely was targeting Diddy, but they needed this Von Zip person. So here how they do it.
Zip had cancer, and I think he smelled a rat. I think he probably understood, what's this guy showing up out of nowhere? Why does he want to talk about this old situation?
So they basically wanted to put a wire on Keefe D. They're like, yo, we need you to go link up back with Keefe D, maybe catch him on a wire saying some shit about the money or the murder that could connect other people, right? Or implicate himself. According to this cop, he says we didn't want to put a wire on him at first because if you ain't see a nigga in like 5 years and the first time you've seen him is like, yo, remember that crime we did 5 years ago, you're gonna think something's up. So they didn't want to put a wire on him the first time. They want him to just go and kick it, and then the next time they wanted to like put a wire on him, but they're saying that they feel Von Zip got spooked and just like said fuck this situation.
It's from Zip. So we took him out there, tried to get them to reunite, hoping that Zip and Keefe D will sit down and have a conversation. Of course, Keefe D would have been wearing a body recorder.
Wire.
And we would have, had him discuss the gun that Zip gave him in Las Vegas that was used to kill Tupac. We would have had them discuss the relationship with Puffy. We would have had them discuss any transactions of funds that were used as a result of these.
Clearly, they were looking into some conspiracy charges, right? So conspiracy usually falls under and part of like, in some states, like they charge conspiracy as RICOs, and some of them are just, some places they just charge a conspiracy. But a conspiracy usually is the person who you oftentimes want to target in an investigation. They didn't pull the trigger. They didn't do anything. They probably only paid for the murder or somehow ordered the murder, right? So you can't connect them directly. So essentially the only way to catch him, you got to get all the other people, offer them lesser sentences or give them some sweetheart deals that they could fold on the guy who really initiated it. Now, again, they don't know as a fact that Diddy ordered it, but it looked like they tried to bark up that tree, but they needed this Von Zip guy to maybe corroborate this because Keefe D was saying, right, Keefe D's literally telling them, and by the way, he said in interviews too, that he got a call from Diddy and Diddy was like, was that us, blah, 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 which almost makes it seem like Diddy was kind of behind planning this. However, they have no real evidence without the guys that would have been involved in possible transfer of funds or possibly being there to have these conversations with Diddy or somebody around Diddy to be like, hey, these things did happen. So that's what they were trying to get.
Solicitation for Tupac's murder. So those are the things that we were hoping to accomplish by utilizing Keefe D as an informant. So that was the strategy, but it didn't come to fruition. Zip had cancer. And I think he smelled a rat. I think he probably understood, what's this guy showing up out of nowhere? Why does he want to talk about this old situation? So I think, Zip was from the streets, and he'd probably been around enough informants in his life to give him a little bit of consternation about, sitting down and having a heart-to-heart with Keefe D.
Gotcha. Okay, so did Keefe D actually try to go to the club and talk to Von Zip, and if he did, was he already kind of wired for sound at that point?
So during the initial meeting, we just wanted them to see each other, greet each other, and then make it look as organic and natural as possible. We couldn't have Keefe D just showing up and going, hey dude, got a few minutes, I want to talk about Tupac's murder. Right? We had to do it in a very natural way. So we initially just said, hey, just go in there. Hopefully, hopefully he's there. and you can just say you're in town, you'd like to get together, just checking in. Maybe even offer to say, I've still got my drug trafficking situation back in LA. If you need anything, we can resurrect our drug relationship. So that was the approach, the idea behind it all. So when we initially sent him, we didn't want him to have a wire because we didn't know what that environment might be. If they are suspect of him or, concerned, you never know if they're going to start patting him down, something like that, and then the jig would be up. So we just said we'd build this slowly, initially just go meet with them, and then see if you can establish an ongoing relationship with him, and then we'll start slowly building it from there. But he ran into Zip. Obviously, Zip showed up at the club. Him and Keefe said, what's up? And then he told Keefe D, like, yeah, I'm kind of out of the business right now. I'm struggling with cancer, but my nephew, you can hook up with my nephew and you guys can set some stuff up between you. So we got kind of deflected there. And we had to try to figure out how to overcome that.
Okay. So now we get this angle of the police is looking like, obviously they know who did the murder. They know all these players associated, but they're looking and they're kind of barking up this tree of, well, is this a conspiracy, and did money or did a hit have any, influence on these guys making a decision to go kill Tupac, right? Because I think in their mind it would be like, yeah, part of the motive is that Tupac jumped this Crip, but shit, when the head honcho of the Crips, at least the Southside Crips or whatever, when they find out, number one, we already got a hit out on, like, there's already a bounty on this motherfucker's head, and he just jumped one of our peoples, let's really go kill him. You get what I mean? And that's the situation that is got the police to probably look at other things. Now, here is a theory, okay? There is a theory of mine. Well, not theory of mine. This is the ongoing theory and probably conspiracy theory in a sense that people are saying, well, in reality, maybe the cops are locking up Keefe D now because he, even though it might be weak without Von Zip, he could tie this whole situation to Diddy, and really they're still investigating Diddy. Now, I think that's a stretch, but people are thinking, and if you've seen the trend on social media today, people are like, yo, they're coming for Diddy next because this guy who you've already, I played the clip where he says the reason why he took the proffer and even got into situations where he was down to wear a wire, the reason why he did it is because they threatened him that he was going to die in jail. He's 60 right now. They just charged him with murder. That's basically telling him you're going to die in jail. If they tell him, if you could give us Diddy, or if you could cooperate that could help bring Diddy into this situation, maybe we help you out and you maybe not die in jail. Definitely going to do some time. Maybe that's the reason why they locked this guy up, and that's why there's an ongoing conspiracy theory. Now, we're going to get to Orlando Anderson, the actual trigger puller. So don't think we forgot about that. But Keefe D has, he said that basically after the murder, he said he knew Diddy. He said Diddy went ghost on him, okay? And, I mean, that sounds about right. Like, nigga, you did a murder. Like, the fuck am I going to keep talking to you for, right? Listen to him. Salute to Art of the Dialogue, by the way. This was 2 months ago.
You feel like Puffy owe you?
Yeah, he should. I think he should look out. He look out for everybody fucking else. You know what I'm saying? Shit. I seen he brought that dude. What's his name? What's his name? The dude, Drink Club. The dude from Drink Club.
Oh, you talking about Nori?
Noriega? Yeah, he brought him what he brought him? A Maybach truck? Yeah, I think he should look out. You know what I'm saying? He worth $1 billion. He should come look out. Come build a basketball gym at our Parkers. Do something. You know what I'm saying? Do something for us, dog. You know what I'm saying? He wrong. You know, he like we some shit on the grass or something. You know what I'm saying? Like he don't even know us no more. God damn, buddy.
If you could say anything to Puffy after everything you did for him, what would you say to him?
I'm still here, bro. Still waiting.
By the way, this is 2 months ago. 2 months ago.
You know what I'm saying? I'm still here waiting, bro. Damn. You know, I used to pop all the champagne bottles, all that shit on me. I used to fill up the tubs, all of them thing. Ask him, man, I used to buy 2 cases of champagne, fill up the bottle. Andre Herrera, all them dudes used to be in the room, man. We used to have a ball, dude. He like, man, you need to come to New York. I swear we'll repay you. I've been waiting on that repay for a long time, bro. Yeah. I got him popping them bottles like that. We pop, poof, poof. It's down like the 4th of July in them hotels, in them sweet style. They used to be popping the shit out of them bottles, dude.
Huh.
Shooting dice, all that shit. We used to have fun, dog. But he never. Damn,
I wouldn't reach out either, nigga. Y'all killed Tupac. I don't want nothing. I don't want my name in this.
I can't even get a fucking Roman noodle soup up in jail, man. That's bad, dude. You know what I'm saying? And he know I was in jail. You know? A Roman noodle soup. That's bad, man. Don't you think so?
If what you're saying is true about you giving him protection when he came to L.A. because he was scared of Tupac and Suge.
All that, man. Yeah. Gene, you don't even say, man.
So, by the way, their relationship stems beyond what he claims in terms of, like, Tupac dying. He apparently, the Southside Crips usually gave protection to Bad Boy when they came to L.A. because you got to remember, shit, like, there was a whole rivalry there. There's a whole beef, almost an East Coast, West Coast beef. And shit, you know, Suge Knight was moving militant. So they needed somebody who was local in California to hold them down. And apparently it was Southside Crips, and obviously he was the head honcho.
God damn, he saved your ass a gang of times. Didn't he say that?
Yeah, I think I recall him saying that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he should give Keefe something. He said that, didn't he? Because I saved his ass a gang of times. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, these dudes out here eat your ass up. These some wolves out here, dude. You know L.A., this ain't no joke. They will eat your ass alive out of here, dude. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you coming out here faking, for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of Puffy, right? You saving Puffy. Tell me that story about how you saved Puffy and a guy named D-Mac, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Puffy and D-Mac?
Okay, we're not going to get too much in that. By the way, randomly, just give me a minute with this. I don't know why this also exists. By the way, I don't know why people keep saying Diddy gay. I heard Diddy straight as a motherfucker. For real. But apparently this guy's saying that he's gay
Have
too.
anybody from his team reached out to you? Or have Puffy reached out to you directly?
No, he never reached out to me. I think he should. You know what I'm saying? That's wrong. I be seeing Murder Mace saying, how can he move to L.A.? He don't know who killed Biggie. This and this and that. Like, damn. But no, he never looked out for me, you know. Never tried to contact me or nothing. You know what I'm saying? He know I'm out here, you know what I'm saying? I lost my empire behind him trying to, you know what I'm saying, be his friend. You know what I'm saying? Seemed like he took me down. I ain't even met the brother, really be that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but Puff, he never looked out for me or nothing like that. People going around saying he's just gay and stuff like that. I was like, damn.
What?
You know, he got a lot of baby mamas and stuff like that. In my opinion, I think he probably like bisexual or something. You know, I think he's bi or something.
What?
You know, that's my opinion of him.
What makes you say that?
I think he's bisexual. He got, you know what I'm saying? He got Young Miami, all them little bras and stuff, but I think he's bisexual. Like I was watching the Rank Chapman, and he was talking to Fabulous. He talking about, man, we got a party. Fabulous said, he already party. You know what I'm saying? No, we got to really, really party. I'm like, damn. So Fab was like, man, we already party. No, we didn't party. Did you see that?
Yeah, I seen that video. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a party, yeah. Yeah, it's been rumored, and to me, one night we was in Anaheim. He came out the shower, Came out the shower with a towel wrapped around him.
What?
And it's about, it's about fucking 50 Crips up in the suite. And he, you know what I'm saying? He bent over all of this shit. Like, man, you better get your mother, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't do that in front of around, you know what I'm saying? Especially, some East Side motherfucker. I mean, Compton people, and the hub and the dub, you don't do that around, it wasn't right. Mans don't do no shit like that. Walk around with a towel, come out the shower, then you bend over and go in your suitcase. Yeah, that had me thinking fishy shit about him then. But now everybody's saying he.
Nah, we're not believing it. Okay, all right, cool. So we're catching up a bit. I think we've caught up to a pretty decent cadence of what the fuck is going on, right? There's this guy, Keefe D, which this is a guy, Dwayne Keefe D Davis. He got locked up today, and he's arrested for the murder of Tupac. The other 3 people in the car are deceased. Now, I'm going to give you the Orlando Anderson because obviously, clearly we have more than shit. I think we got 10,000 on Rumble. We almost got combined, we definitely got 20,000 on YouTube. So we got a lot of people in here who clearly love Pac or are interested in the story. So I do want to kind of explore all the angles that got to do with this, right? So Orlando Anderson, the guy who pulled the trigger, I'll tell you how he died. Or actually, I'll play some videos, but I've heard some other things too. Hopefully, I didn't watch this video before, but hopefully they tell the same story.
Baby Lane, Orlando.
So this is telling why the shooter died, and that's why I know some of y'all like, damn, why y'all locking up the guy that didn't shoot? Well, he threw the gun in the back. He didn't shoot. His nephew shot, but this is how the nephew died. This is why he never got arrested.
And gets killed a few years later.
Right. Which is tragic, man. That was a real Compton young entrepreneur right there, man.
What?
A real young entrepreneur right there. He really would have taught a whole lot of young dudes how to really eat out here, man. Because he knew how to eat. He knew how to put it together. Right?
Well, I guess at one point.
Oh, I think these guys are Crips. That's why. That's why they say, "Yo, this is a real entrepreneur." I'm like, what? I've never heard Orlando Anderson being discussed like this, but I think they're Crips.
Orlando actually testified on Suge Knight's behalf, saying that Suge didn't actually kick him and
he was
whatever
trying to
else.
actually help him, but it didn't really help. But he tried to,
But they were saying that Suge paid him off.
Probably.
At that point, it's like, why not?
I would have too, yeah.
Yeah. But Suge went to prison anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that point, Baby Lane died, and everyone else in the car. There was another guy in the car who died, I guess, of natural reason. I guess he was really overweight, and he died of natural reason. Someone else, I believe, got killed. And at this point, Keefe's the only surviving member of that, and he spoke on it various times, on various specials.
And we knew every one of them dudes personally. Every one of them dudes you talking about personally.
Yeah, and I think that even with Keefe's confession, there's always going to be some gray area around that whole situation because it's still a cold case.
Yeah.
All these years later, 20-something years later.
There's still a lot of money being made just from telling the story. Man.
Yeah.
I just had 2 songs on the Biggie and Tupac series on the USA Network.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 joints on there produced by
You did a great job of that, by the way.
He'd been drinking all night with one of his.
Okay, so there's 2 Compton officers. By the way, Vlad be finding the retired officers. These are 2 officers that were in the Compton gang unit. Obviously, I think they're retired at this point, but they're now giving the recap, and they probably were the primary officers on investigating the death of Orlando Anderson. Remember, I got to keep reiterating this so you know all the characters. Orlando Anderson, which, by the way, is this motherfucker right here. Orlando Anderson. He's the trigger man for Tupac. He's the guy who was accused of killing Tupac, the nephew of Keefe D. Okay? So let's hear what the officers claim happened.
Orlando's grandmother had passed away the night before. And apparently he had been drinking all night with one of his best friends, Michael DeRoe. And they went over to a place called Mom's Burgers across the street from the car wash to get something to eat. Well, he sees a guy that owes, from another gang in Compton, a Crip set in Compton, that owes his uncle and his friend DeAndre, I forgot if it was $5,000, $10,000,
Yeah,
somewhere in there, about
yeah.
$5,000 over some cocaine.
Yeah.
So he decides, because they've been drinking and everything else, they got a gun in the car, they're going to go over and jam him up about the money he owes. Well, this guy's from another gang in Compton called Corner Pocket. And some of the other Corner Pocket gang members were there, and they start coming up like, hey, what's this all about? Why are you jamming them up? And next thing you know, Orlando pulls out a gun and shoots two of the Corner Pocket persons that are there, or shoots one of them right away. And then another Corner Pocket guy starts shooting back at Orlando and pretty much hits him dead center. I mean, he wasn't alive much longer after that. His partner that was in the car with Orlando took the gun and then started shooting back and ended up shooting another Corner Pocket guy that shot Orlando. They went around the corner, crashed the car, and we were pulling up there when Orlando was being pulled out of the car. The other guy took off running, dumping the gun. And we're waiting for paramedics, and one of our partners, Ray Richardson, was over there talking to Orlando, and he was basically taking his last breaths at that time. And two of the persons at the gas station that they were shooting at also died that day. So it was a triple murder, and it was all dope related.
It was right by Compton High School, actually, at a car
back
wash.
of the high school.
Mm-hmm. And the cold thing is, like, the guy who, what's it,
Stone?
Stone, yeah.
Jerry
well,
Stone.
Jerry Stone.
Yeah,
Jerry
Mike
kind of
Stone.
like.
So essentially, it became it's one of those things where I guess I'm summarizing. Orlando, I'm not sure if the drug dispute was Keefe D's, but they said it was one of his relatives' drugs that wasn't paid for, something to do with money and drugs. He pulls up on these guys, basically confront him like, nigga, you know you owe us money, blah, 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 blah. Other dudes that's with this other guy, because the other guy's gang affiliated. You got to remember, this is like fucking L.A. back in the day, right? Like, pretty much everybody's like in a gang, almost damn near. And the other dude's like, what the fuck? Orlando Anderson. And this is what I keep hearing about Orlando Anderson. By the way, there's a whole arc about Orlando Anderson that, I was talking to Wack actually today, and he was putting me on a lot of game too. But apparently, like, Orlando Anderson, like, his life story is like a movie in itself. Like, yes, he ends up being the person that kills Tupac, but all the things that kind of happen in his life that even lead to his death is like a whole movie in itself. And so he pulls up trying to check these dudes. He pulls out a gun because the other gang members pull up. He shoots like one or two of them, and then they kind of shoot back. And the story I heard, it was he was the person that shot the other guy, and the other guy shot him, and it was one of those things where they both die. But I'm hearing from at least the Compton gang unit, they said, I guess Keefe D got shot in the middle of the chest. I guess he's like out for the count, but his homie in the car picks the gun up and shoots. Regardless, he dies, okay? And he's never charged with the murder of Tupac at all, okay? So yeah, that ties up that loose end. Now, we're going to get into some ancillary figures. So we're kind of going back again. We're like, we have the main storyline. Let's, that little tape thing. We're going back to some other people. Mob James, Tupac death. Now, Mob James was one of the dudes that were tasked with kind of being the muscle and protection around Death Row. Okay? He's the one also. Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to get. So he spoke on like what happened when Pac died and like the subsequent things afterwards. Let me see if I could get him. Where is he? Give me 1 second. Okay, so here we go.
If you connect the fight at the MGM to the shooting that happened right afterwards.
Okay, I'm gonna go straight to Mob James.
And niggas is on answers depending on who you ask. But from your point of
We made
view,
it smaller.
as someone who's been banging his whole life, or a large portion of his life, would you say that Tupac died gangbanging?
No, I think Tupac died because he put himself in a situation that he had no business. Tupac didn't have no business doing what he was doing.
Right. Which was a gang situation.
Which was a gang situation. He shouldn't have put himself in that situation.
Do you see what I'm saying, though? You put yourself in a gang situation, so aren't you gang banging at that point?
I mean, you got hang-arounds. I'm guilty by association, and that's what he was. He was guilty by association. Now, I'm not gonna play the part just to fit in. You got money, and just like I said before, you can't go buy another Tupac. You know what I'm saying? You can't go buy another one of them. You got 15 Bloods right here. That this is what we getting our little change for. So this is Crip in Compton. We all Parus from Compton. Go get his ass for what he did. Tupac, you sit right here in his chair. You my money. Don't let him run off and go hit somebody he don't know nothing about. And that's why the man is not here. He put himself in a situation that he had no business. It wasn't his business. I don't care. Any one of those guys could have told Tupac he was a Paru. It didn't make him.
Yeah, and I think there was the Showtime documentary about Suge, and I think Suge talked about, after that situation happened, and he said, well, you hot in the music, but now after this situation, now you're gonna be hot on the street side. And right after that happened,
and that's coming from a man that wasn't hot from the beginning of his damn self. Suge ain't from no he ain't never had no gun and did no drive-bys. He ain't stood at no stoves and fought no Crips. Right. He wasn't going to the high schools while we was doing us. He was getting an education. While we was fighting, we went to school just for lunch.
All right. So basically, this is like a gang member basically saying that Tupac acted out of pocket. Like, obviously, we look at Tupac as like kind of almost a super gangster, but like at least for the Parus that was around, they were like, yo, Tupac was a rapper, man. Okay? Tupac was a rapper. And the mere fact that he really attacked, Compton Crip, that dude, the rapper, set off a lot of things in motion. Not only did he cause his own death because they retaliated on him instantly, he basically then set off a war, which he spoke about in other interviews as well. But I wanted to get to Mob James, who he's going to speak about his view of what happened that night. We're still trying to stay on that night. There's many different trees and branches we could go to in terms of kind of like following other storylines. But because Dwayne Keefe D. Davis got arrested today for the murder of Tupac, we're trying to still stay on what happened leading up to it, what happened after it, why it happened, and the aftermath and why it took 27 years for that murder to be solved. Here we go. By the way, salute to Vlad.
Gang member,
Yo, Vlad about to make $1 billion, man, because he got all the videos the cops need and the fans want to see.
Biography that I ever read. He was mentioned. There's a book that was written about him, and then there was a book that he wrote himself. I read both, and it almost started my journey of interviewing Crips and Bloods and so forth. And we've been trying to interview him for years. We never really came close because he was always like in and out of prison. We would talk to like his son or someone claiming to be his son or something, and it never ultimately happened. And then I found out that he was dead a few months ago. Did you actually know him?
No, I never really, no. I know of him like all of us do. We know of each other. To me, it's disrespectful to exploit the dead and then to speak on the dead the way these people do. You know what I'm saying? In our days, we didn't do that shit. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter if he was a Blood or Crip or whatever. The man is gone. So I find it disrespectful for anybody to speak fucked up on him like that, you know. And
He's talking about Orlando Anderson, by the way, Baby Lane, the guy who actually, the guy who actually like pulled the trigger.
And you know, I didn't know Nipsey, and I find
Let me skip to it a little bit.
some of us experiencing trying to sell drugs to get the fuck out of us.
Yeah,
I knew, and I felt the same way he did when, you know, he believed in what he was, and he represented what he was to the fullest.
Tupac story, somewhat. I mean, apparently.
Okay. He's not really saying much here. Okay, so here's some obvious questions. So let's go back to the murder, right? Yeah, I see. I got my little thing here. How did this murder take 27 years to be solved? Remember, a car pulls up with 4 people. It's not 4 strangers nobody ever seen. You know, if niggas from, especially some of these neighborhoods, they could probably quickly figure out who was probably either in the car, streets be talking, they could probably end up figuring, you know, niggas can't keep quiet. They probably could figure out who pulled the trigger. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. One of the questions that always lingered to me, and probably, I don't know if it's lingering to y'all, is that, remember, Tupac is right here, as I said, right? So Tupac is right here, right? So this is Tupac right here. They're firing, like they got the gun outside the window right here, shooting into the car. And you got Suge Knight, who's right here, which, by the way, I think it's a miracle that he's not dead, right? But obviously, I think that's why I've always said, like, it would be stupid to even think Suge was a part of it, because if you're going to get somebody killed, you don't want him to be killed right next to you when you're in the line of fire. It's probably reasonable, though. Even though, by the way, these are all niggas who, like, this is some street shit, too, right? Do you think that Suge saw the people in this car and knew who it was? I would say yes. Now, is he going to cooperate with law enforcement? No. And by the way, I do think that law enforcement over time was trying to twist Suge's arm to kind of, you know, but I guess you got to salute to Suge on that. Suge never, I mean, he's lied a bunch of times and he said a million different things. Like Suge is, like he said, oh, so-and-so is the reason why Tupac's dead. But he ain't never really give up the real reason. And Mob James spoke on that. He said, this is him speaking on why Suge Knight can't say who killed Tupac, right? Because Suge Knight could have had this shit solved like forever ago, right? Because also remember, you hear from Keefe D when they pull up on Tupac, Tupac looks them directly in the eye. So Tupac himself knows or could identify, and I'm probably guessing Tupac sees Orlando Anderson when he dies. Like before he dies, right? So he sees the guy who he remembers jumping. Let's hear Mob James.
You know, I think one of the funniest stand-ups I saw was with George Carlin, where he says, at every funeral, at some point, someone always says, I know he's up there looking down at us and smiling. But how often should you really say, I know he's down there looking up at us? Because I don't think he made it to heaven.
if Charles Manson died, everybody going to say, well, may the good Lord bless his soul. He in heaven now. Really? Really? And you know, I ain't gonna talk about nobody else unless I put myself out there. I don't know which way I'm going.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm trying to change my life and my lifestyle so I can at least get a shot.
I mean, do you believe in heaven?
I believe it's something, a higher being than what we have here.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
I believe in there's a God.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I interviewed this guy named Scott Ross. He's a famous private investigator. He's worked on a lot of cases. Worked on the Michael Jackson case. Worked on the Bill Cosby case, and you know he's basically part of Tom Messero's team. Tom Mesero is the lawyer who represented Michael Jackson, represented Bill Cosby,
right,
and was also representing Suge Knight.
Right.
How did you get on that case?
Okay, come on, let's get past this.
Interview Scott Ross.
Would have put himself in that type of situation.
Here we go.
Something about the Tupac shooting, and those were the types of conversations that we had.
You know, people can call Suge a lot of shit, but I don't think Suge would have
put himself in that type of situation, knowing that he's going to jail. I can't see Suge telling to fix his situation. He a lot of things. He's a motherfucker, but me honestly, and you know how I feel about Suge Knight, just keeping it 100, I don't see him doing that. So, but if they say, if the lawyer said that happened.
Well, the private investigator.
Yeah, the private investigator, who am I to judge? So.
Well, number one, you're not exactly finding the cure for cancer here. I mean, every
day or led up to the demise of these two people, my hands ain't clean, should I say. So it was more to it than that. See, one thing people don't understand, Suge know a whole lot, knows everything.
Right.
But Suge can't talk.
Why not?
Because if Suge talk, Suge implicate himself in 99.9% of the bullshit that was going on. So Suge could never talk.
So Suge can't just do an interview and say it was Orlando Anderson. Give me
He
my
can
check.
do, everybody understand. Everybody already know it's Orlando.
Right, exactly.
But Suge know that, Suge can't just say it was Orlando Anderson. You know and I know who's ever interviewing him gonna go way deeper into the situation that, well, who was it, Suge? No, Suge gonna have to explain. He gonna have to elaborate way more than what by just saying Orlando Anderson. And he knows that. But he cannot, 99.9% of the bullshit was his bullshit. So he can't expose anybody or put anybody out there. That's why when people say Suge telling or told, it's bullshit. Bullshit. Suge ain't saying shit to nothing about nobody. He can't afford that.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Interesting. Okay. A little bit that's also, well, a little bit more that's also interesting. And by the way, I'm not going to, again, we could go into so many things here, but I'm trying to keep this interesting. I think we're approaching 3 hours, so I'm not going to completely just fucking go down every fucking lane of possibility. But it's important for y'all to hear at least, I watched this. I think this was a little bit emotional too. But this was the cop who responded in Vegas, and he supposedly captured Tupac's last words, right? Let me see. Okay, cool. Here we go. So this is...
But you got to understand, they don't know which car is the shooter at the time. They just hear the shots from, I think they were in a parking garage. So they're a couple of stories up and a few hundred yards away, and they just hear the shots come from the group of cars.
So how do you arrive on the scene?
They said they were heading towards the Strip, and I was already on the Strip, so I started heading northbound, and they were, as they're in pursuit, we're heading in the same directions. The group of cars is heading towards me, I'm heading towards them. So as they reached this, they're going down Flamingo, they hung a left on Flamingo, which puts them southbound, which is going towards the MGM and towards me. So I was going northbound. So we're literally heading towards each other. And my concern at the time, I was on my, like I said, I'm on a bicycle. I'm thinking, how am I going to stop these guys? And I don't know, but we'll see. I'm still going to head there and we'll see what happens. Usually we use hand signals, whistles, and things, and people will almost all the time pull over for you if you direct them to. But these are guys that are already running from the police, so I figured I'd do what I can. If I can't stop them, I can't stop them, but there I am. So I was heading northbound. They were heading southbound. As we hit Harmon, which is a street that T-bones right into the Strip, they tried to make a left turn onto Harmon.
Okay, he's talking about how they did try to chase the guys who killed them, right? Who killed Tupac. Here we go, though.
I'm looking at him, and here's this guy is giant, and I'm just like, man. And I was not going to let this guy sit in the car and take me out, so I grabbed the car door, pulled the door open, and I was having a hard time getting the door open. And I think, and I'm still not positive, but I think the bullets being in close proximity to the handle itself, I think they somewhat disabled the mechanics of the door handle. And I was pulling it and couldn't get it open. So, which was just making me even more concerned. I'm like, I got this guy here and now I can't even open the door. And I just pulled it and finally it popped and it came opened. When I pulled the door open, now we've still got people running around, people are yelling. I'm trying to watch these other guys a little bit. And now I've got, at this point, Suge Knight is coming up behind me. And, you know, I'm looking at him and here's this guy is giant and I'm just like, man, this is a bad situation for me. And I pulled the door open, and when I pulled it open, the guy sitting in the passenger seat, who turns out later to be Tupac, he kind of slumped out, came out with the door. So he's in the car, he's leaning against the door, and as I open the door, he kind of spills out. So he spilled out, and I just kind of grabbed him with one hand, and then I was pointing the gun at Suge with the other, because Suge is still trying to run up to me, and you know, the guy's clearly a threat. He was also just absolutely gushing blood out of the side of his head, but he's acting fine. I mean, he's not incapacitated in any way. He's shooting blood out of his side of his head, and he starts yelling at Tupac, and he's yelling at him, "Pac, Pac," and he just keeps yelling, "Pac." And I can see, then I look down, I can see Tupac is trying to yell back to Suge, and he's just kind of not physically able to do it. And he's kind of, you know, you can see him sort of mouthing, and they're in eye contact with each other. And he's trying to get something out to yell at Suge, and he can't get the words out. But he's still, you know, he's fully conscious. He's moving. He's kind of squirming, and that's when I looked at him, and there was, you know, an extensive amount of blood on him, and I saw that he had. I couldn't tell exactly where it was, but he had clearly had torso wounds, which are, of course, you know, almost always going to be life-threatening. So I realized then this guy has a good possibility of dying. So I looked at him and I said, you know, what happened? Who shot you? Who did this? You know, what's going on? And he's just really just kind of ignoring me. He's not even, you know, even though I'm right there.
He's fucking dying. Nigga ain't ignoring you. Like, bro, he's going probably in and out of consciousness. Like, bro, barely probably could breathe. Like, bro, he just got shot 1 million times. He's not ignoring you. He's not fucking ignoring you. Yeah, he's dying. Talking about he's ignoring me like Tupac at that point is so lucid. He's like, nah, I ain't paying attention to you.
Hold him. He's just kind of not acknowledging my presence, and he's trying to yell back at Suge. Well, I turned around at Suge, and that was the first time I noticed. I saw the back of another bike officer, and he was pushing Suge away from me, and that's the first time I realized there's other cops there, so that made me feel a lot better. So he kind of pushes Suge back, and Suge is still yelling, "Pac, Pac." He's trying to yell at him, and then I saw Tupac just all of a sudden, just in an instant, he went from trying to, you know, kind of squirming, looking at Suge, trying to get the words out to where you could tell he physically just gave up. He just wasn't able to do it. And he just crossed that line into just quitting and being at peace. And he just kind of laid back and was calm and was no longer looking or trying to do anything. And I could just see that he was just, you know, it's kind of like almost like an athlete or a runner when they hit that wall and it's just like it's over. And you could see that in his face. And I looked at him once again. I said, "What happened? Who did this? Who shot you?" And now he's looking at me, so we're looking at each other in the eyes. And this is kind of the first time he's even acknowledging my presence. And he looked at me, and I could tell he was getting a breath together to tell me. And he looked me right in the eyes, and we looked at each other, and he said, "Fuck you." And he said it just like that, with the emphasis on that F to really let me know. That's how we felt. So,
by the way, first of all, this sounds like a movie, but we don't know. We got to go by this guy's word.
He said that, and right after he said it, he just kind of started gurgling, and you could tell he was in bad shape, and his eyes, he's starting to lose consciousness then, and his eyes roll back. And as it turns out, that would be his last conscious moment and his last words.
So once he realized that you were a cop, and I guess you were asking him because there's something called a postmortem.
In police work, we have something
postmortem.
called a dying declaration.
Yeah.
And basically what that is if someone is dying and believes they're dying, whatever they tell you, if you can get that information, is not hearsay in court. If you need to go in court and testify what they said, those statements are open season. It doesn't happen a lot. I've only, him and one other guy in my 25 years of police work, where I've had a dying declaration situation.
But once he realized that you were a cop, he didn't want to have anything to do with you.
No, I think he just, he didn't feel like, I think the guy was pissed. I think, whether he knew he was going to die or not, I mean, who's to say, but he seemed like a guy that was pissed off that he was in the situation he was in, and he's trying to talk to his friend, and I think he just viewed me as an obstacle and somebody asking him something he didn't want to talk about. And, so he let me, he told me what he told me.
Wow. Damn. This is again, his name is Chris Carroll. He's the guy who supposedly found Tupac at that scene. He went on to do other interviews.
Best way, you've probably been down to the strip. A parking structure, doors pop open, and
he's told this story before, too.
We don't know what's going on. So that entourage of cars, and as it turns out later, so Tupac's car is like right in the middle of that entourage. So
remember that diagram I had before, right? First one, what the fuck? Yeah, remember that diagram I had before? This right here, right? Pretty much Pac's vehicle is in the middle of like the whole melee and all that type of shit, right? Okay. Sorry. Y'all like my drawing or no? Okay, here we go. My bad, child.
They had hit when they left the scene. They're trying to get out of there as fast as they could. They had hit a curb and blown out both of the right-hand side tires of their vehicle. If you look at some of the crime scene photos that are on, you can even find them on the internet. If you look at the rims of that car, his rims are smashed into the point where the tires went flat. So he hit the curb hard. So as they head to the strip and they hang a left on the strip, which is not far away. It's only like 2 blocks to this, maybe 2 blocks to the strip. So they hang a left, which sends them directly towards me. So they're heading towards me and I'm heading towards them. They're heading southbound, I'm heading northbound. So we're coming at each other. And, in my mind, I was kind of thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I don't really have any way to stop these guys. They're on, they're in cars. I'm on a bike. They're already running from the police. So I don't know what's going to happen when I catch up to them, but, we'll see what I can do. So when they got to Harmon, which is another street that butts up against the strip. Right now there's like city center there. You have the Cosmo and all that. Well, that wasn't there at the time, but so right at Harmon in the strip, they go to hang a left on Harmon. The whole entourage does. Well, they're going too fast. And their tires are blown out. So when they go to hang a left in the intersection, they kind of spin out. Well, they don't kind of spin out. They spin out the intersection, lose control of the vehicle, and the whole entourage comes to a stop. Now, at the same time, I'm sliding in on my bike. So this isn't really something like I pulled up on the street. So you got a lot of people out, and it's a chaotic mess. So as I'm yelling at everybody to get down, I'm waiting for the shots to ring out. Well, fortunately, that never happens. There's no shots. So everybody's out of the car, but I look and there's one guy still sitting in a car. And I'm like, oh, this is probably the dude who's going to take shots at me. That's why he's sitting in the car. I can't see his hands. God knows what he's got going on in the car. I don't know. So I had my gun in my hand. I approached the car. And when I approached the car, I could see it's got bullet holes. There's the handle of the car. It's got bullet holes all around the handle, tight grouping of bullets. The passengers window is shot and broken, and there's also bullet holes in the windshield on the side, you know, the right side of the windshield, but on the windshield. So it's had a lot of gunshots. So I tried to pull open the door. At first I couldn't get it open. I think what had happened is,
Yeah, he's telling us the same story he told on the other one.
you know, because some people, it sometimes comes up, well, why didn't you give him CPR? Well, because he's still breathing. You don't give a breathing guy CPR. So he's looking at Suge, and he's kind of fidgeting. I mean, I didn't even see the guys pull up, but so then I knew there was other cops there. Was not, he's still breathing, but it's not good, you know.
Okay, we're gonna skip to and I don't want to get too gruesome and like too graphic with people describing the death of Pac. There was a interview about the autopsy. By the way, there was an autopsy video or no picture actually of Tupac that eventually leaked to the internet. And after that, we're gonna get a little bit back on the mainstream of why this arrest is going down, what's probably gonna happen next. Will there be any new developments? And then we'll probably wrap this up and we'll go into some other hip hop topics. By the way, I know you guys, I told you, I warned you guys at the beginning of the stream, I probably was going to take 2, maybe 3 hours. We're at the 3 hour mark. But I kind of want to examine all of these other things that you guys and also I need to watch and hear, that we have a firm grasp of what the fuck happened in terms of at least public knowledge that we know about it now. And what probably still are the questions I need answered, right? Okay, so this was about the autopsy, or at least when he got transported to the hospital. Here we go.
The Vegas incident. Give me a play-by-play of everything that took place in Vegas.
So Vegas, I wasn't there. So Pac said,
here we go.
And Whack Deuce, and we was there, man, and just waiting, hoping that we're gonna get, you know, the good word that he's better.
This after he got brought to the
coming
hospital.
home, but unfortunately, you know, his situation turned to the worst, and his mother felt that the proper.
Yeah, Crypto, thank you for the $2. And by the way, I'm gonna read all the donations in a second. Pretty much, he wasn't dead on the scene. I think he did pass out, but they still either figured he had a pulse or whatever. But he got broke. He wasn't dead on the scene, so he was not pronounced dead on the scene. He was brought to the hospital, and I think, you know, they did multiple surgeries initially. Let me see if I could go back that he could talk about it.
In every movement, you know, that shift of the homies would go to the hotel. The next shift will come, and we remember we just did this. You know, Pac had some surgeries. We went to the hotel after that. We decided, for some reason, there was no security. For some reason, I don't know why they put Tupac on the first floor of the hospital. His window literally was in the back of the hospital on the first floor, meaning that if word get out that Pac is there, anybody can do something, because people was calling the hospital like, we coming back to finish him off. So we was getting death threats. Pac was getting death threats. So what we did was like, you know, shout out to Gobi. You know, we met with Gobi. Gobi had a van, I remember. And all of the outlaws, we like, look, you know, there's not enough security here for Pac. We just got to step it up. So we parked the van right behind his window, and we had shifts. You know, 3-4 outlaws will be there from like 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. We won't sleep. We just watching every car, everybody that walk by, because you had so many cars coming, so many fans walking around, and we watching every movement. You know, that shift of the homies will go to the hotel. The next shift will come. And we remember we just did this. And we were saying to ourselves, man, wait till Pac, you know what I mean, come out of the hospital. He's going to be proud of us. Because it was the first time that we was kids around Pac. And we always used to make a lot of mistakes. And he's always be like, man, I'm trying to put y'all up on game and y'all not. He decided to, you know, let him go. No one questioned her and said, why did you do it and stuff like that. You know, people just supported her decision.
Who were some of the people that came to visit Tupac while he was in the hospital?
Damn.
Who were some of the people? I think Jesse Jackson came through. We don't care about. We wasn't paying attention to none of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who did. All right, let me watch this. This is another take about his condition.
I got on the next flight the next morning.
I got out there. We sitting in the parking lot with Quincy Jones' ex-wife. What's that? The Mod Squad girl. I forget her name. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't.
And his girl.
So this guy, I believe this is Billy Garland, and I think he's the father of Pac. So this is Tupac's actual father.
Girl. Right. He's sitting on the curb. And I remember she said to him, "Mommy, who's he look like?" Joking. Of course, I look like him a great deal younger. I'm older now, maybe not so much. And I don't know. I always thought he would come through. Pac had been shot before. And I just thought he would come through. But when I walked into that room, and he had a zipper here, ventilator, bandage here, bandage here. Face looked swollen from the induced coma. I just sat down and talked to him. The doctor said that he might be able to hear you, and it's good to talk to him. Don't look for him to talk back because he couldn't. He had that thing in his mouth. He never gained conscious. They had people talking about, I talked to him in the hospital and all that. Full of shit. You ain't talking to nobody in the hospital because he never gained conscious. Funny thing though, only a certain few can go in the room, relatives. But every time I came out, there was two Suge Knight guys sitting at the door. They'd always bum rush him and say, "Did Tupac say anything?" Unbeknownst to me, I'm not paying attention to that. I don't know what behind that. Later on, I found out why. Maybe he thought he seen the people who had tried to kill him. But that might have been the saddest thing and in my life at that time, because I went back to the hotel and going back to the hospital. And on the radio, it said that Tupac Shakur had died. I was at a red light. The motherfuckers was blowing at me and honking and shit. I couldn't move. I just pulled aside the road. Shed a tear. My son was killed. Still to this day, they don't know who or why. Damn sure wasn't Orlando Anderson over no fight. But that's another story for another time. And I cried to myself. I had a tear coming down. It didn't look good. I don't know what the fuck. It just didn't look good. And yet, I still thought he would survive. I just knew he would survive. Some say he still might have. But that's a very delicate question. I don't know if I should bring that up. Because I had lung cancer. I have 1.5 lungs. They took bottom half of my lung. I can't run the marathon. I can't sing a cappella, but I'm alive. Pac had his lung taken from being shot. I don't think it's up to anybody to decide whether someone should live in an altered state. That for someone to say, he won't be himself, let him go. I wasn't at the hospital at that time. I don't think I would have said that. Okay, and I'm not trying to say, that that's what the case, that he might still have died. But I don't think I would ever have said, let him go. There's no fucking way I would have said that. No fucking way. I'd have taken that motherfucker with half an arm, half a lung. He still would have been Tupac. He still would have been Tupac.
So basically, you had nothing to do with the decision to take Tupac off of life support.
No, they were resuscitating him a couple times. It didn't look good. I'm not saying he would have survived. I'm just saying I wouldn't have muttered those words. There's no way. Her sister and Fanny was in the room at the time with the doctors. I was just coming back from the hotel, like I told you earlier. But I found this out later. Who's to say? I don't know if I should have brought that up, but it still pisses me off. Like I tried to tell you before, I don't want to disparage that lady. I swear to God, I don't.
So the decision was made by his mother. Obviously, his father didn't agree with it, but, whether she made the decision then or another time, or maybe if she said, "Hey, I don't care what, try to save him." Who knows if Pac would have made it out of that. I'm gonna try to play. Let me play one more clip, and then I'm gonna go towards. I'm gonna bring in the Reggie Wright character, and I'm gonna bring him in because he was like head of security for Death Row. He was there through a lot, but he's also been, his father is a cop, and I'm talking about Junior. His father is a cop. Remember the other guy who said, yo, Reggie Wright Sr. pulled up to Compton and ran up to them, like, if you kill my son. Reggie Wright Jr. has been pretty much spot on in following this entire situation. Even he's the only person, like, he said, this guy's going to be locked up in a month. And he said that last month, and we're going to get to that interview. Let me just play this one more thing. And this is pretty much, I'm not trying to tug at people's heartstrings and shit like this. Obviously, we all love Pac. Pac probably, I don't care how old you are, Pac probably means something to you in different ways. And it's whether you've known him for music, whether you've known him for some of his stances and the things he stood for, or maybe you knew him for just that voice. Maybe you knew him for acting. Maybe you knew him for, just being someone who was just, to me, it's one of the only artists who I feel is just bigger than music. I think he was leading the movement. He means a lot to the majority of people. So this is probably the hardest part in trying to, get through this whole shit, is kind of like, you're hearing these people talk about him in a really almost like vegetative state where he's passed out, or, these are the final moments of his life. He's unconscious, but these are decisions that get made, and you get to realize how gruesome and how violent, the situation and the shooting was.
And we still didn't have it's information as we can available, but as far as following up the next day and farther on, that's really doesn't have anything to do with me. And when me and him talk, we don't talk about this. We talk about other stuff.
The biggest rapper in the world gets killed in the middle of the Las Vegas Strip, and Las Vegas PD does not know who did it.
We don't. But I'll tell you, the real reason is because we got no cooperation. Even the guy who gets shot says F you, The witnesses won't talk. Nobody wants to do anything for the police. And, a lot of these, there's been criticism because we don't have an arrest of a suspect. But we didn't get any cooperation from the word go. I think Suge Knight showed up to do his interview with the police the next day or the day after. He shows up with 3 attorneys and basically has nothing to say. If anybody knew what was going on, it was probably him, because he was in the mix from the word go. I mean, he saw everything. He got shot himself. No one's going to have more information than him, and we get nothing from him. So it's hard enough to get a homicide case on, even when you have good information, and we're dealing with almost no information, as well as a drive-by shooting, which tend to leave very little in the way of evidence. I think there was some shells recovered from the scene, and of course, the slugs that were inside of Tupac, and that's basically it. There's just not much to go on. And I know you're probably going to want to talk more about this, but the guy who is the main suspect is dead. So clearly this is not going to go anywhere further.
So at one point, a picture gets released.
Right.
Which shows Tupac on a operating table.
Thank God he blurred it. I don't even like pictures like this even blurred.
Right.
And most people assume that this is a fake picture.
It's not a fake picture. It's a real picture, unfortunately. And it shouldn't have happened. I remember at the coroner's office there, because of that incident, that picture getting out, there were policy changes. I think some people were reprimanded and so forth. I don't know who actually took the picture. It was before we all had phone cams, so it was taken with an actual camera. But it's hard, especially if you've never seen an autopsy. In simplest terms, an autopsy is brutal. It's not for the faint of heart. And here you have a guy who's a celebrity, a famous, loved celebrity, laying on the table with a Y incision cut in his body, and the back of his head opened up, and I think it's just more than people can comprehend. So everybody says it's fake because it's just too much to take in. Well, unfortunately, it's not fake.
So essentially, after Tupac was declared dead, the body was taken to the coroner's office,
right?
And they sliced him open.
Yes, they do a full. Any homicide victim is going to get an extensive autopsy for documentation, should the case be prosecuted.
So Tupac gets killed. There are no charges filed against whoever killed him.
Right.
So the conspiracy theories start to emerge.
There's a million of them.
There's a million of them. The biggest one was that Suge somehow had Tupac assassinated.
I say absolutely not. Didn't happen. 2 reasons. First of all, you don't have somebody killed who's sitting right next to you, because it puts you in harm's way as well, which is evidenced by the fact he's shot in the head during this shooting. He takes her around to the head, and by the grace of God or luck or whatever you want to call it, the trajectory of the bullet is such that it just doesn't penetrate his skull and kill him. Second of all, is that when I was at the scene with these guys, and it was heat of the moment, you know, blood flying, people yelling.
Yo, chat. I don't know if y'all believe in a higher power or whatever. What are the odds Suge Knight takes a bullet to the head? That's another like branch that we could go down, and I don't know if I could go down. I could again. Yo, by the way, I apologize so much for the people who came here for other topics, because this is so extensive. I could probably stream for a week talking about this. There's so much to really cover. What's the likelihood of a bullet penetrating your head? It clearly cuts you. It's obviously a graze. Well, we're going to call it a graze because it doesn't penetrate your skull. If you think about your head, and I know I got a big ass head, I know. Like, your head is really pretty much skull and some flesh membrane covered by skin. Usually, if anything is going to penetrate, especially something like a bullet, the likelihood that it just goes here and it doesn't, like, bro, you can't even think about, the fucking percentage. To get grazed in the head, who knows if it was on the top of his... Keep in mind, maybe if that gun or that bullet was aimed, oh my, like the hand aiming that shot that hit Suge Knight was tilted even the slightest bit, Suge Knight is in a vegetative state too. He could have been brain dead. You get shot straight through your skull, like, come on, it's lights out. You're definitely unconscious. We could go, if y'all want, and listen, I'm at your mercy. We could go down that rabbit hole as well. I've seen a couple videos talking about his injuries. By the way, the Tupac shit, I ain't gonna lie, bro, that shit saddens me, bro. Like, I know he died a long time ago, but when you love an entertainer and you have to reflect on their unfortunate demise, like, it's pretty natural that it's gonna make you sad. But if we talk about, like, Suge Knight, his injuries and him in that situation is such a unique and fucking unbelievable, almost divine intervention process. Like, how does he survive? How does he survive this shooting? All right, let me get through this.
Suge clearly was very worried about Tupac. I could see it in him. He was almost panicked as he was looking at Tupac, and he could see that he was in seriously bad shape. He was almost panicked, worried about him. And I think, in those kind of situations, acting just doesn't work. If that was acting, he's the best actor that's ever set foot on the ground, because it was clearly to me not acting. It was heat of the moment stuff going on, and I saw concern and almost panic on his face and in his voice.
Right, and this wasn't
okay. I'm gonna introduce another character which I've talked about before, but here comes Keefe D. This is modern day Keefe D. Oh my God, slap me. I'm stupid. This is Reggie Wright Jr. I'm sorry, modern day Reggie Wright Jr. You might know him. I showed him briefly in some of these other interviews where he kind of chimed in, and he basically represented himself as, I could even Google it, he represented himself as the head of security for Death Row. Remember, his father was a police officer. So Reggie Wright Jr., Reggie Wright Jr., Vlad. You're going to see a much younger. See, when he first did this, and the only reason why I show you the difference, by the way, obviously he's clean shaven here, but I'm showing you the difference of, what makes this thing really hard for us to digest, and why, you know the type of streams I do. What makes it where, this is a huge thing today, and I can't even get to my regular topics yet, is because so much time has passed, and there's been so much people who have been hurt, family, friends, associates, fans who have always had questions, and people have talked about every possibility that had to do with the death and demise of Pac, including people who, I'm showing you a time lapse. I'm showing you a time lapse, right? I'm showing you here, and then now I'm going to show you, give me 1 second. I'm going to show you him here.
So the big...
Right? So this is literally, wait, fuck, I'm fucking this up. This is him a few years ago talking about it. This is him today. You can see everybody's aging, and I think this is why this matters so much. Here we go.
Big news coming out of this week is...
By the way, this is Reggie Wright Jr. Remember, he was head of Death Row Security. He's always kept up, and by the way, he's very legally, he knows a lot about that part of it. He's not just a hood nigga. Remember, his father's a cop. He reacted 2 months ago to Keefe D's house being raided, and this is what he had to say.
Obviously, Keefe D's house being raided by the Las Vegas police. Can you tell me your thoughts on when you found out about it, and you called it a long time ago, so I just wanted to get your thoughts or your reaction to the news of them raiding his house.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious answer, and I'll just answer a bunch of questions because I kind of feel bad for Keefe D now, y'all. You know who I blame for Keefe D, y'all? I blame the Compton Unified School District for Keefe D because brother's the idiot. Y'all got on me about the t-shirt giveaways and John and all of that. That was Reg's way of trying to give that man a hint to shut up, that they were lurking and they were coming, and to raise money and save that money to get your attorney fees right. That's all. But just to clear up a bunch of rumors that y'all got out there, it wasn't an arrest warrant. It was a search warrant. And what's happening, y'all, and I know this for a fact, because I know a couple of people that's going to be testifying before the grand jury, and that has been subpoenaed to the grand jury, myself included. Breaking news. But, because His argument is going to be now, y'all got that idiot over there talking about he's trying to set up the self-defense and all of that, which he got from me. Tupac never even, the shit was in a fucking locked compartment. So the self-defense shit goes out of the window. And even because Keefe D never even said that he saw a gun in his hand. So all of that, y'all hear about guns in the car and all of that. Y'all didn't learn about that until Reg opened his big mouth and told it. That's the only time y'all heard that they had guns. And I always told you it was in a compartment. And I didn't see them come out. Somebody else recovered them. I heard about it. So it was secondhand. But anyway, my point is, the only defense that he has and a good attorney will probably take up and help him with is the immunity and the proffer issue. Greg Kading did a great job on our channel. If you haven't got a chance to hear it, please go check it out. I'm explaining y'all the difference between an immunity agreement and a queen for the day, aka proffer agreement.
Okay. All right. So pretty much this guy called it. So Reggie Wright called it 2 months ago, and he's right. I mean, Keefe D did get arrested. He said within 2 weeks, shit, from that search warrant, pretty much he was right. Maybe it was 4 weeks. Anyway, I know some of y'all are interested in this angle. Is Puffy liable? And by the way, after this, I'm going to read all y'all super chats, all y'all donations. So if you sent in a question or you sent in a comment, I will read it after this. But I know some of y'all are interested to say, okay, is there a bigger play? Is Diddy going to be liable for this? Now, before we get to the Diddy going to be liable for this, and by the way, again, I could spend probably 5 hours on each of these topics. Is it possible that Keefe D beats these charges? From all we know, and by the way, I'll just talk quickly about this. From all we know, Keefe D, right, has not technically given any other evidence, or they haven't found any other evidence, especially since everybody's dead. They haven't found actual physical evidence. They're probably going to be prosecuting him with his words and the book. So they're going to be using his own words against him, which is going to turn into a First Amendment fight in a sense, because he has a right to say what he wants. And if he comes out and says, oh yeah, everything I was saying for the interview, I was just saying to get paid. People want me to talk about Tupac. I made up a story. Now, granted, the story he makes up kind of sounds exactly like what happened and what everybody been claiming what happened. But if they only have him saying it, it's like rappers rapping about shit, right? It's like the reason, for example, obviously, this is a bigger thing. Well, bigger in the sense of they have way more evidence. Like with Melly, they're not using Melly rapping about, oh, yo, I got 2 bodies. They're not using Melly and some of his lyrics to convict him, because you know what? His defense attorneys are going to show up in court and say, oh, y'all took his words? That wasn't, by the way, anytime, if he wrote a book, if he did a Vlad TV interview, if he did anything else, it was not under oath. And because we're protected by the First Amendment, which is the freedom of free speech, or the right to free speech, you could say whatever you want publicly, and unless, there's actually a case, I forgot off the top of my head, the only way they could use what you say outside of a courtroom or to a law enforcement officer against you is if all the evidence that they have points to you actually already being guilty, and you're basically already talking about an actual event. Now, here's the thing. The reason why that's maybe a viable defense for Keefe D, if they didn't need to see his book or hear his interviews, why didn't they lock him up in 27 years? You get what I mean? So basically, it looks like what made their case is the fact that he's been doing interviews. And according to a lot of the laws that are on the books, if the rest of the evidence doesn't already point to the fact that blah, blah, blah is happening, you can't just use their words. Because somebody could say it right now. Think about an unsolved murder. Say someone says they did it. You can't just charge the person, right? Especially if they say it not to a law enforcement officer and they don't say it on their oath and nothing like that. They say it in a song that they killed so-and-so. Do you know what I mean? So that is the thing that Keefe D is going to be. This is going to turn into a big First Amendment thing. By the way, I guarantee, and by the way, well, first of all, with all due respect, I think Keefe D's broke. With all due respect. I don't care how much Vlad paid him, he broke. Still broke. If he does have money, though, this will be a case that's going to be groundbreaking in a lot of what's going on these days. Think about whether what Vlad is doing or other people are doing. You know, like even think about FYBJ Maine. FYBJ Maine is coming on camera these days saying, yeah, I was in a shootout with so-and-so. Yeah, he shot at us. Oh, we held up a girl, blah, 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 blah. Again, you think the Chicago police ain't watching those interviews to say, what the fuck? That's what we kind of heard what happened in the streets. We about to lock him up. Again, if there's a slippery slope, if cops could arrest you based on what you say on an interview, they could definitely arrest you based on what you say on a song, right? And that's where it's going to keep going on. What role you play in a documentary or music video or a movie. So that is what's going to happen. That's why I'm gonna be honest with you. Reggie Wright Jr. he's really dope because as much as, trust me, he hates Keefe D, but he's not going to be biased in realizing that if the police really had this nigga dead to rights, they're not waiting 27 years. Now, again, this comes back to the whole Diddy angle. Maybe, maybe they're bluffing. Maybe this is their last chance. I don't know if you guys play poker, you play chess. This is their last chess move on the board. This is them going all in with a bluff to say, yo, we're going to get you for the rest of your life, knowing that if he has great lawyers and could really drag it out, he'll either probably beat Las Vegas, DA, either on the original charge or if they do appeal. Maybe they look at him and say, yo, if you could give us somebody else, maybe they're just using him for the snitch angle, right? Who knows? All right, cool. Bet. So we covered the Reggie Wright stuff, right? So let me see.
Obviously, with the
all right, we've covered the Reggie Wright stuff. What the fuck did I say I was gonna get into after? Actually, let me keep playing this.
If the judge will go and kick that out and call it an immunity agreement, will be the route I would be going if I had an attorney, a good attorney that would take that fight on, which there are great attorneys out there that will probably take that on for him because it would be some case law. This will be a great case law case. He had a great attorney that was with him. So all of y'all that go and say, Keefe didn't understand, the police tricked him, Greg Kading, he had Edie Fall with him. A great, great criminal.
Okay, that's another legal thing that's coming up. Again, I don't want to legal y'all to death. And by the way, I know we got other topics to get to. Again, my niggas, yo, my chat niggas, first of all, make sure y'all all subbed up. Make sure y'all on the Discord. Lock in with me, okay? We're right now at the point, we're at the precipice of almost 4 hours. I might have 3 more hours for y'all. I'm locked in with y'all, okay? We're going to get to regular topics. We got shit to talk about, okay? We got to talk about, like, you see the title of the stream. But let's really get through this. Okay, let's talk some legal shit. Okay, what he just referred to, right? Let me go back 1 second.
He had Edie Fall.
Oh, the whole he tricked me shit. Ain't that Gunner's argument? Yo, I understand. Yo, the prosecutor tricked me. So here's the thing. There is a possibility that even if they have now said, like, for example, this is a play that Keefe D is going to have. They're going to go through the whole thing in preliminary hearings and basically say, yo, you know, or like these pretrial, like, you know, or not preliminary. It's really these motions that are going to happen before any trial is going to happen. They're going to say, yo, in reality, just like how y'all couldn't use Tory Lanez songs against him and y'all couldn't use YNW Melly songs against him, y'all can't use Keefe D's interviews against him. And if that's the case, this case is probably dead because I think the only thing they really have is him snitching on himself. They don't have much, right? That's the main thing they want to knock out. Now, if the judge rules, well, actually, we can use your statements you said in interviews against you. And by the way, here's the fine line. Like, you know why Young Thug's like lyrics wasn't used against him? Because it was too vague. There's been many cases, and it's actually case law at this point, where if you rap specifically about a specific event, a specific crime, like if you rap all the details to a crime and that crime existed, they could use your lyrics against you. You know what I mean? If you are that specific, they could use that against you. So, but if you like vaguely mention, like, you know, like YNW Melly said, oh, I got 2 bodies. They can't be like, oh no, he was talking about Juvie and the other guy. No, they can't. 2 bodies could have been anything, or he could have never had no bodies. But if he said, oh yeah, I got 2 bodies, this is my best friend, I killed them in the car, and then I told my man to bring him to the hospital, they're definitely using those lyrics. Do you get what I mean? You've described the actual event. Okay. So go down this road with me. There's a possibility that they're probably going to say the interviews are going to be admissible because he's given such detail. It doesn't seem like a fairy tale, like he's actually describing the crime. But even if they don't, right? Or actually, no. Well, they probably will. They probably will admit it. When they admit it, you know what he's going to say then? Yo, I had ineffective counsel when I first did the proffer deal. My counsel, and based on my understanding, I'm just a street dude, they told me I had they told me I had immunity, right? Obviously, remember, I've been saying this the whole stream. Proffer does not equal immunity. But if they're going to use his interviews, he's going to, number one, first try to say, no, these interviews is me making up some shit. And if that doesn't work to toss those interviews out, the next thing he's going to say is play dumb to say, yo, I didn't know that when I did the proffer agreement with them, I couldn't say those statements that I said in that proffer agreement otherwise without it being used against me. And obviously they're going to be like, well, you signed the paper. Then he's going to argue about ineffective counsel because, you know, if you do some shit and you fuck up, you just blame your lawyer. He's going to argue ineffective counsel, and then we're going to see what happens then. Anyway. So that's the whole you tricked me angle, right? Anytime a nigga says you tricked me in the court system, yo, you're in the court system with a lawyer. Your lawyer is supposed to explain to you what the fuck is going on. There's no tricks. Okay? There's no tricks. Your lawyer's job, like, you know, Gunna says he got tricked. My nigga, how the fuck did you say you paid millions to a law firm and the DA tricked your $1 million law firm? And come on, do you understand what I'm saying? Exactly. All right.
Great attorneys out there that will probably take that on for him because it will be some case law.
Yeah.
This will be a great case law case. He had a great attorney that was with him. So all of y'all that go and say, Keefe didn't understand, the police tricked him, Greg Kading, he had Edie Fall with him. A great.
Somebody says ineffective counsel won't stop the jury from convicting him. Phenom 11, thank you for that comment, by the way, on YouTube. So if you're saying ineffective counsel, and those are like almost like these motions before that you're going to argue to throw out evidence. That's it. Right? Like, for example, do you notice in the YNW Melly case, they don't talk? Yo, it's actually at least for the last the last. Could you stop, bro? They get Tupac in the room or some shit like that, man. Salute to Pop, man. Anyway, do you notice in the YNW Melly case, right? Neither the prosecution nor the defense could mention the fact that he has a song called Murder on My Mind. That got struck down in pre-trial shit. They argued motions because before you get to a trial, you have to argue the parameters and the rules of what you're going to be going into. So it's like you're setting the rule set of this fucking game that's the trial. So what you want to do, like, for example, you know why YoungBoy beat that case, that federal case? Well, actually, not that case. You know why he's supposed to beat this other case in Baton Rouge? Don't wait till you get to trial. Get it already inadmissible that they can't use the memory card. Because the only evidence they got against you is what's on the memory card. So make a big stink about, hey, how y'all got the memory card and how y'all searched it is actually illegal search and seizure, and it goes way beyond the scope of y'all investigating whatever the fuck y'all came in to investigate. Blah 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 blah. Hey, YoungBoy won the first round. You know what the feds did out of Baton Rouge, out of Louisiana? They took it to an appellate court. The appellate court sided back with the feds, or at least the government. And then, so YoungBoy lost that. I don't know if it was at the Supreme Court yet. So YoungBoy is going to appeal it again. So that's why YoungBoy's case, that's why he's perpetually just still on house arrest. Again, that case is going to be won not at trial. Not every case is going to be on some Tory Lane shit where you're at trial. That case is going to be won before trial. If they could use the memory card on the memory card, YoungBoy got the gun in his hand, right? If they could use the memory card, it's likely YoungBoy's going to get found guilty. If they can't use the memory card, they're going to have to rely on word of mouth, citizens' reports that said he allegedly had a gun, which is easily beatable. You get what I mean? Hearsay is just not going to be enough, and it's not going to meet the criteria of convicting somebody of that serious of a crime. Okay, especially if, the people who called in, they didn't even know who was who. They just said a bunch of black Negroes, and a lot of them had dreads. So, again, most of these cases depends on what you could throw out before. So, for example, in Keefe D's case, if you could get all the interviews that you've done not admissible into court or into evidence, the cops can't convict you. Because if they could convict you, they would have convicted you in the last 27 years. Do you get what I mean? I think I know y'all smart, and I know y'all get it. Okay. All right, let me play this, and then we're gonna I got two more videos about Keefe D, then we're gonna kind of get off of this. All right.
Criminal attorney. He's one of the guys that handled the guys in the LA riots that started the LA riots. The four gentlemen that beat up Mr. Denny. He was one of the attorneys, the lead attorney on that case. E.D. Fall was very respected in the LA municipal court system, or superior court system. And so he had a great attorney that was with him.
Okay, all right. So I think you guys are very understanding of what's going on. I'm going to play this very short video. Actually, this is going to be the last video I play about this, then I'm going to read all the super chats. So if you guys... No, I'm not about to throw up. Who said I'm about to throw up? I'm chilling. Hey, we're still locked in. We got hip-hop topics to do afterwards. By the way, I'm going to be honest with you because there's so many more people here than is usually here for our regular streams. If you do want a whole dedicated stream towards us, like, again, we've done this for Takeoff and other people. Like, we almost do group investigations here, like where we just go down rabbit holes and we unearth everybody and every evidence possible. Clearly it's easier with current cases. Like, for example, like, I don't know if you remember we were talking about the whole thing with Lil Baby. The nigga who got locked up for shooting up Lil Baby's concert, we had his Instagram already. Okay, so that nigga got locked up. Like, we had his Instagram in 20 minutes. You feel what I'm saying? He just got arrested and charged for shooting up Lil Baby's concert. But, these are like, historic things that I think has just kind of always hovered over hip hop. Anyway, if you guys want me to do like a fucking 5-hour stream kind of going into all these little things, we can, because I have pretty much about like one more clip I'm gonna play, then I'm gonna read super chats, then we're gonna go into other topics. All right, so I apologize if you guys want me to keep doing this, but yeah. Anyway, it's important to see this. Hold on, by the way. Wait.
News of the Keefe.
I got 2 more clips actually.
All right. Yes, indeed. So you being a cop, you being a retired cop, Keefe D, they raided his house in connection to Tupac murder. What you think about this situation?
Well, you know, it's kind of first of all, it surprised me a lot. So the warrant was served on a Monday evening. So I got a call Tuesday morning. Somebody calls me up and they go, "Hey man, is that warrant being served on your house?" They think it's been served at my house. I'm like, what do you talk? I have no idea what you're talking about. And they go, "There's a warrant served on the Tupac case." I'm like, "No, that's some internet BS. There's no warrant." So then I got a second call and then a third. And I'm like, all right, what's the deal? So then I, got on the computer, started checking it out. Here's what happened. Basically is, and you probably have seen some of this. This guy Keefe D has been shooting his mouth off for a couple of years now.
So chat, I'll tell you what I'm doing, right? And by the way, don't start calling me Vlad nothing. We do have it won't be anytime soon, but we do have outstanding requests to Las Vegas Police Department that is going to showcase what they found. Obviously, it's going to come out in Discovery, but we're going to get a whole copy of what you know how people got the whole Meg fucking crying in the video, like crying in the ambulance and bleeding. We're going to get that in regards to this at some point. But that's as much inquiry we could do. And that's just, by the way, that's just a regular citizen inquiry. All right.
Now, openly telling everybody that he's part of the murder. He says he handed Orlando Anderson the gun, and Orlando Anderson took, is the shooter and shot Tupac. He openly is saying, "I handed him the gun." Well, that makes him part of this murder. So he's been going on. I couldn't believe it when I first saw him on I think it was probably a YouTube channel or something, but he's just been going around telling the world that he's part of this murder. And, a lot of people, were coming to me, and a lot of people in the press are like, "Hey, why aren't they doing something with this guy?" And, my response, well, of course, is, "Well, I'm retired now. It's not my call."
Supposedly, Keefe D has been selling stuff connected to the murder.
Say that came out of Tupac and things like that. It's going to take a long time. This guy, Keefe D, has been shooting his mouth off for a couple of years now, openly telling everybody that he's part of the murder. He says, fine. Is he big enough part of it to just flat out charge him with murder hereafter?
All right. Okay. I think that might be it. Okay. All right. Let's, so since this is a recent Reggie Wright Jr. video, I hate every time they talk about Diddy, they always talk about his sexuality first. I guess what we would care about is could Diddy even be connected to this shit, right? Again, by the way, these are rumors at this point, but could he be connected to this shit? Let's listen to Reggie Wright, who, by the way, was accurate in saying that Keefe D was going to get picked up because he is. Let's hear his opinion on Puffy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Brother Love.
Search warrant. A lot of people started to comment and mention that they hope something happens with Puffy. Do you have any thoughts or any opinions on if Puffy will have any sort of blowback or legal issues if they move forward with Keefe D?
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question. It's unfortunate, y'all. Without the Von Zip, the person who we're convinced, I'm convinced, I believe Murder Rap is convinced, and the investigators are convinced, that received the money from Puffy Combs, he's no longer with us, Von Zip. And so, just like some would say, Mr. Knight is glad because Poochie no longer is with us. Puffy Combs is glad because Von Zip no longer is with us. Because trust me, they would have went after his whole empire and attempted to turn him. Nothing would happen to Puffy, y'all, unfortunately. I would attempt after this happened, after Keefe get convicted, I would attempt, but I know the estate won't because everybody's connected with the Universal and the music business and all of that. Y'all know his family, unfortunately, is, Celtics is low key, but the people that's around her that looked up to her and, that she looks up to and all of that, they anti-government. I'll just call a baller, striker, strike. They don't care about law enforcement, the government. They think everybody's corrupt and everybody's against them. But I would sue the shit out of Puffy in a civil court. And I think somebody would beat Puffy after Keefe gets convicted in civil court. If y'all know anything about laws, it doesn't take much at all to get a civil judgment. Well, it takes a little, but it doesn't take as much as a criminal. You only need 8 of the 12 people to vote for it to be for a civil, where in criminal you got to have all.
Okay, no, he's right, but here's the thing that I would contest to even him saying that. At this point, who would be suing Diddy? Who are the true victims in this case? Tupac, his family. Afeni has passed away. The rest of the family are probably, busy and working towards handling the estate. They probably, unless there's like some documentary play, like why would they even keep bringing this shit back up? Like they wouldn't do this as a money grab against Puffy. Like they're managing Tupac's estate, which is very lucrative. Why even go into this if they really believe that Diddy won't go to jail if he did do it? Which, by the way, we have no idea if he did.
Puffy don't repent and get on his knees and ask God for forgiveness, is what happened to Puffy. Now, I always say Puffy threw that out there. I believe Puffy threw that out there for those of y'all that they don't really know. Well, why would Puffy have any involvement in there? Keefe has always said Puffy offered them $1 million to take out Suge and Tupac. Just to throw it out right quick. Y'all go research it for those of y'all haven't heard why we saying this and why people say that. Puffy, I believe that's just like a conversation where you throw something out. Whether your heart is 100% in it or not, I can't say. Y'all see how Keefe D's over there bragging right now on the other channel, how Puffy owes him and Puffy need to do this and Puffy ain't seen him a pack of Roman noodles and all of that. Well, his reasoning is because he has some involvement, that he's taking credit for now having something to do with the murder of Tupac because of the, the solicitation by Puffy.
All right, chat. So essentially, like, it's really a long shot. I was talking to Wag today, and I won't disclose everything you said to me, but, it's such a long shot. Like, I would personally put down a little light bet. I don't think nothing of this blows back to Diddy. First of all, if anything ever even approached the angle of Diddy, would have to be something Fed-wise, and I don't think the FBI. If the FBI had a stake on this, it wouldn't have been the Las Vegas police filing charges and having this press conference. They would have picked him up without nobody knowing. They would have got him to flip. They would have pretty much then just set up the play, and then by the time you heard about it, they would have said that Puffy is the subject of an investigation or an indictment. So this is some local shit. This is Keefe D fucking up. He should have moved. He should have not talked about the situation. He should have knew what Queen for the Day is. And I think he's the only one that's going to go down for it. But I do think Las Vegas police always wanted to finally close this case, and they finally have. Okay? I know some of y'all want to hear the great story of there's so many people connected to it. it would be very hard for me to believe that there's going to be more people, okay? All right, cool. Chat, we're going to move on to a bunch of stuff. And by the way, yo, if you guys have sent in super chats or you've sent in donations or whatever, I will be reading your donations. I apologize because we literally just went 4 hours straight Tupac Shakur murder inquiry. And I know some people are upset, or some people like, I thought you want to go and talk about this. I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of those things that gets even me emotional. Like, Tupac is somebody who I love. I would love to do an 8-hour stream just straight on this. But, you know, this stream is just not supposed to only be about that. If you guys do want me to keep either investigating, quote unquote, like, pause, I'm not no cop, by the way, like, keep, you know, like, keeping track of what's going on with the situation to update y'all, and also look into other angles, I definitely will. But, you know, for me, I know this is a little bit personal because I do love Tupac. Okay, cool. Okay, let me do super chats. Bruce, thank you for the $2. He says, yo, Ak, you could just say Diddy, man. He's like, you know, Young Miami don't like you already. Bro, first of all, this got nothing to do with Young Miami. Yo, Diddy, like, first of all, a lot of y'all just don't know Diddy's real history in music. If you think about what Diddy's actually survived, like, Diddy's definitely like a cat. And he probably got more than 9 lives. If you go back to the situation with Shine and shooting in the club and all the things that was surrounding that situation, obviously Shine is, you know, all that shit, he got deported. Diddy dodged a lot of fucking bullets. Diddy is a survivor. By the way, he's a great entrepreneur. He's an amazing businessman. I've done business with Diddy. We've, you know, through the business we've done, it's been tens of thousands of dollars. You get what I mean? So, you know, I'm not speaking about this nigga like I don't, like, his companies is cut checks consistently for me. You feel me? However, I don't know nothing about this. I was a little kid when all this shit happened. So me, I'm learning, right? Derek Bruce, thank you for the $2. He says, yo, Ak, TJ went dumb on his new song, bro. You gotta take it easy. You want to listen to little TJ? He got a new song? You went crazy? All right, remind me to check out the little TJ song, all right? Cutie TV, thank you for the $10. She says, yo, this whole thing is crazy. Because at this point, Pac is gone. His mom is gone. But I'm glad this has come back to light so folks could remember Tupac, his story and his talent. Rest in peace, Pac. Chat, I think this is where, I think I'm in, like, the perfect space. You know, and I appreciate growing, and I appreciate aging, and I appreciate time. I feel like I have a really close connection to a lot of the young artists and a lot of the upcoming artists. But I also have a really close connection to some of the artists I grew up on. Whether it's a 50, whether it's, even Jay-Z, Nas, like, these are people who I like too. And, you know, as I'm covering hip hop news and, you know, obviously we're always progressing, it's always interesting to remind us of these stories that happened in the past, because we kind of see the same thing happen consistently. This whole Tupac thing reminded me of King Von. King Von feeling like he's on top of the world. Sees a nigga he don't like. Happens to be a rapper, but still a nigga he don't like. He got a bunch of people with him. He's feeling like the toughest nigga probably on earth. Thought he was just going to beat him up, make a statement. Somebody who's with that guy who's, again, might just be a killer. King Von loses his life. Tupac Shakur goes to the Mike Tyson fight. Adrenaline pumping. He's about to head to the fucking after party. He's with Suge. They see an op. Oh shit, ran down on him. Oh, you the nigga who took blah blah. They beat the nigga up. He's thinking there ain't no blowback from that shit. Everything is cool. Women is like, yo, Pac, this and third. He's living a life. He's in like a blur. It's like a haze. It's like a haze of blurriness of just like going through the motion. Little does he know, the person you jumped, he's a Compton Crip. He's already, like, niggas know him for smoking people. Like, again, that's a whole different angle. Like, I could probably do a good hour or so on, like, that Orlando Anderson angle. That nigga's a killer. So the killer he's probably thinking, yo, they're gonna think I'm a bitch. I got beat up by a rapper. I'm known for smoking shit. I'm the nigga who quick with the gun. A rapper beat me up, so you know he on hots. His uncle is the fucking one of the shot callers of that section of Crips. Shit happened quickly. So we keep seeing a lot of the same things repeat itself. But somebody said do an Orlando Anderson segment. I can't. It's hard to do that for me. And by the way, I remember, like, you know, I was talking to Wack today, and I was just like, yo, I was like, because Wack was telling me he has, like, potentially the life rights of Orlando Anderson. But I don't know if you guys know G Malone on Twitter. He was already talking about doing, you know, G Malone's a Crip. And by the way, you know what I realized? It's so crazy. And maybe, you know, I'm probably out of balance even kind of like getting into some of the politics with this, but the way how we as fans, and I'm telling you, I'm watching all this shit and it's a little emotional. You're probably going to watch this. If you watch this over again, my eyes get glassy at times because it is emotional. I love Tupac. Tupac's really been influential in my life. He's dropped songs. He's been impactful on me becoming me. So, you know, hearing about his demise or hearing about how how untimely his death came, of course it's going to affect me. But you know what I realized? Like, if you go into certain places or if you go into certain, like, mindsets of people, especially in LA, some people, they don't look at Tupac's death how I look at it because I'm a fan. They look at it like that nigga was out of bounds. I remember I heard Wack one time talking about it. I was like, yo, Wack is tripping. Like, this nigga is disrespectful. But I've realized that, you know, maybe it's just structure and just how they view gang banging and quote unquote politics in LA. But I think fans across the board are hurt more about Tupac's death more than the people who are actually in gangs. Real talk. Anyway. All right, cool. Are we good? I think we're good. Oh, okay. Then I was reading some more donations. Fuck Robert. He says, yo, Ak, we love when you investigate cases, but let this one go. Let the police do their job. The big fish ain't nothing to play with, my boy. I guess you're talking about the big fish as Diddy. I wouldn't accuse Diddy of anything at all. You know what I mean? Again, you know, I still maintain the right to be autonomous, and trust me, there's certain people in this industry, like when Diddy name comes up, it's like the boogeyman. Again, I'm not going to accuse Diddy of doing anything I wasn't privy or party to seeing him do, but this is an old situation and there was a whole West Coast, East Coast beef. I'm not saying Diddy did anything, but if I can't mention the nigga name like he's the boogeyman, like what the fuck is the point? Okay. And by the way, if, you know, I unearth, I guess that would be a tough situation. Imagine if I kept digging into this pause and I found like legit proof that okay, I get it. All right. Muhammad Sasay, he said he's seen him do it. I guess he's talking about Keefe D just kind of giving it up. OG, thank you for the 5. He says, yo, one of the women screaming Tupac's name was Ari Spears' baby mama. Really? How do you know that? Ari Spears' baby. Okay, let's Google that. Ari Spears' baby mama, Tupac. How do you know that? This doesn't even look. I'm looking for clips that would say that, but no. How do you know that? OG, send another donation or comment or something like that. How the fuck do you know that? B Swarthy, thank you for the $1. Nobody, thank you for the 5. He says, yo, shout out to Reggie Wright Jr. and Bomb First. By the way, yeah, thank you to Bomb First. Definitely Reggie Wright Jr. 2, he says he connected Keefe D with Vlad and Greg Kading. Really? He said, rest in peace to Tupac. Kuri 2S, thank you for the buck. Armando Sanchez, he says, yo, you got to talk about, he said this hours ago. He said, talk about Diddy hit on Pac. Again, everything's alleged. I got the scoop. Thank you for the 2. He says, yo, talk about how Flacco, your son, and Brick Babies broke. What the fuck? Cannabis Kicks, thank you for the 2. He says, yo, his mother was on that drug case too. I guess I read that one before. He was talking about Keefe D, where they scared him. Thomas, thank you for the buck. Grown Man Business TV says, yo, they want Diddy. This is a huge chess move. And I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, man. Like, they want Diddy. That's kind of, I think it's a long shot for them to get Diddy. Diddy's a billionaire right now. Like, yo, Diddy would walk into court with like 15,000 lawyers. Reed, thank you for the 2. He says, yo, for those asking how did M know, M is under Dre. And by the way, that's following his previous donation where he says Eminem's Kill Shot song at 340, he says Puff did it. No, he didn't, did he? Eminem Kill Shot at 340? All right, let's listen. 340.
Hits the day Diddy admits that he put the hit out that got Pac killed.
Oh, there it is. What? How I didn't catch this before? He says the day day he puts out a hit is the day. Wait, hold on.
Out that got Pac killed. I'm sick of you.
Wait. Oh my God.
It's the day Diddy admits.
I mean, obviously, like I heard it when he said it. I just didn't take it as anything. But I'm like, now you just send that donation. You're like, for those who are asking, how did M know? Well, M is under Dre. Who was Dre connected to at one point? Death Row. Okay. Armis Jones, thank you for the I-20. He says Diddy could be into for kids. Crypto Slim says, curious to know what made you look into this investigation tonight. Great move, though. You know everybody going to tune in for Pac. I mean, everybody loves Pac. I don't care. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, Pac is such a... He's not only like a generational icon. People that were never, like, alive or weren't adults or teens during his reign love him. What you mean? Like, bro, like, this is the big news. D. Scott, thank you for the buck. Zuri Fraser, thank you for the 2. He says, yo, just go to Bomb First, Reggie Wright. We played a bunch of those. Miguel R1, it says, Gunna would have told when the cop asked the same question. D. Scott, what up, bro? Crypto Slim, I hear you. He says, yo, I answered that already. Were they dead on the scene? I answered that already. Damn, it's a lot of super chats. Crypto Slim says, yo, the Outlaw's career died when Pac died as well. What do you think? Yeah, that's true. At least the mainstream part of it. Simone Tyrese, thank you for the 5. He says, great breakdown, Ak. Remember Eminem called out Diddy for putting a hit on Pac on Killshot. We actually played that. And he says, then Joe Button said Diddy was going to handle it? What? Joe says, oh, okay. D. Scott, thank you. Crypto Slim again says Pac was a visionary. His music and poetry is irrelevant to today's society. Pac's music hit different. His songs always have relevance to your life. I ain't gonna lie. I remember hearing the song Changes by Tupac, and I felt it was different than anything I've ever heard before. I don't know when it was made, but it felt like it was talking about, like, you got to realize I'm also in college at the, like, going into when we're about to have a black president, right? I'm in college at that point. So Obama's about to be president. What was that, 2018, right? No, 2008, I mean. And I'm in college at that point, and it's like, I just remember hearing that song and be like, yo, like, and you know, he mentions a black president or whatever. And I just remember, like, it was just surreal. So, like, Tupac's music is just, it's really timeless. It's really timeless. Miss Sexy Lexi, what's up with you? She says, damn, yo, 27 fucking years, man. Rest in peace to Tupac. I know, definitely. Crypto Slim says, did you see what Jaguar White had to say about Puff? Actually, I've watched those before. we're not gonna get into too much on the Puff angle. Those are so many different conversations that could come into it, and there's so many people who have. We just can't do it tonight. Northside Capo, thank you for the 2. He says, "Yo, Diddy's a freaky dude. He was just ahead of his time." Well, I'm thinking he was a freaky dude in terms of the butt plugs, but I don't think he was using butt plugs on men. Now, it's kind of interesting when people saying he's naked and another nigga was naked and they're both coming out of the room in towels. I don't know what that is. I don't know. OG, thank you for the 5. It says, "Ak, what do you think about Puff wanting Tupac out the way because Tupac was seeing his baby mama, Sarah Chapman?" Really? 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 I'm going to do some research on that. MF1, thank you for the 2. He said, "Yo, check quick video on JB and OBJ, 20-second long." Who the fuck is JB and OBJ? Obviously, I know OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., but who's JB? Brian, thank you for the Canadian 5. He says, "Yo, thanks for covering the Pac case the way you have tonight. Appreciate you a lot." Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. You know when Takeoff died and how we covered it? But we didn't really mean to do all that. But that was just what was natural on how methodical and how attention to detail this stream could be. You guys tune in here. I hope I hope by the end of the stream you have a couple good laughs. You know what I mean? Obviously I love comedy, but definitely I want you to leave the stream to be like, "Yo, shit, I kind of learned a lot," or "Yo, he summarized everything going on in the world in such a consumable portion. That's why I fuck with Ak." And whether you've been fucking with me since 2010 or you just used to me doing these little short videos on my main YouTube channel, I'm the person who I definitely pride myself on trying to, bring these news topics that could be discussion topics, but also giving you the facts in a very consumable portion. All right. Thank you guys for the other donations. I think we're about at the end. Perfect. By the way, Stoneface Colin, thank you for the 5. He says, "You ever wonder why every man gets killed who wants change?" As soon as you said that, I thought about Tupac, but I thought about X. But then I could think about Nipsey. Don't have an answer for that one. I do not have an answer for that one. All right, chat. I love y'all so much. I appreciate you guys. If you guys have watched me tonight, trust me, I love going down these rabbit holes, and I could do this a million more times. I'm trying to please a lot of people because, again, I love Tupac, and I'm telling you, the first song I played tonight, which is "Life Goes On," it's been a song I've shed many tears to, and it's the ultimate R.I.P. song in dealing with death and other things. And unfortunately tonight I had to play it for Tupac, who passed away. But I really appreciate y'all even accepting and understanding that tonight meant something to me. It meant something to me. Okay. Idiots, thank you for the 10. He says, "Yo, there are strange initiate rituals that involve children's energies. The Caesars would take young male children as concubines. It is believed to give them youth and longevity." Is disgusting. There is some disgusting cultures and traditions that include children. First of all, I don't believe in any of that in terms of people thinking that, some people believe having sex with kids keep their youth and lengthens their life. Or some people, there's some people who are almost these, they do sacrifices. They feel like children's blood. Come on, we're not in the motherfucking 1700s somewhere. Come on, if you think children's blood is about it, motherfucker, go get some Botox or some dumb shit. What the fuck is you doing? You think children's blood is about to keep you young? Motherfucker, go get a goddamn BBL at Dr. Miami, get some Botox, nigga, and go get that fucking, that little Nemo fish like lips or whatever, and do your thing, man. Anyway, all right, cool. Thank you. We are caught up. Only took me about 4 hours and 42 minutes, but it's all good. Great. Let's get on to the second time. Someone said Botox.